What up, guys? Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. It's still Wednesday. May 14th, 2025 on a Wednesday. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Karen Smith. Call me cute. And we are on the corner. What up, y'all? We on the corner. Little late on a Wednesday, but Wednesday and Thursday are usually my latest days. I've said this to you guys now. That's why I do my best not to really promise you guys a time. Normally, Monday, Tuesday, uh, Friday and Saturday are the earlier days, and then Wednesday and Thursday are my later days. So, with that being said, let me read to you guys what's up on the menu. Not doing too much commentary tonight. I actually have had some people asking me why have I not done so much commentary on my last couple videos. I'm not stopping it. It's just I choose which ones I'm gonna do it and how often I do it because YouTube doesn't always like when you're too political, right? Now you would think because I've been doing this that they wouldn't bother me. But every now and then they like to throw a little copyright claim in there and I have to go refute it. I don't have strikes. I don't like claims either though, so I have to go refute it. So I'm just a little bit picky on when I do it and how I do it now. Still every single day I come on here and I'm live, but sometimes I might let a lot more of the video play and the commentary is a lot shorter. Other days I might be sitting here right with you guys in real time and I'm just right here and I might pause it a lot more and comment on it, or sometimes I'm kind of sitting in the background watching what you guys do. You kind of hear me like blurt random stuff out. So I do that pretty often. So, all right, guys, with that being said, let's read what's on the menu for tonight. I know you saw the thumbnail, right? So it says Section 8 is on the chopping block. First up, we got shout out to Entertainment Tonight, 7.25 million subscribers. Diddy trial, Cassie's testimony breakdown with CBS News, Jerica Duncan. So this is a short clip from Jerica Duncan about Cassie's testimony at the Diddy trial. It's only an 8-minute clip, 8 minutes and 49 seconds. I wanted to play this before we switch gears and we jump over to Just Holly. Shout out to Just Holly, 7.98 thousand subscribers. Diddy loses it in court after Cassie reveals everything on day 2 of the trial. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. But we're going to watch the short clip first where Jerica Duncan kind of hones in a little bit on some specific details, like the fact that Diddy and Cassie haven't seen each other in a couple of years. Cassie's pregnant, so just how intentionally Diddy was watching when Cassie was giving her testimony, which I'm sure other than Cassie, it was like other than the guy the other day, which they said Diddy started to watch very intently as he told his story, and this was the guy who went by the name of Black, and he would check into the hotels by that name, and Diddy had like a picture of his license and his ID or whatever, and the guy feared for his life. I believe he did his testimony probably on day 1. They're moving fast with this trial. So we got Cassie up next. So we're gonna look at the short clip by Jerica, then we're gonna go into what Just Holly said about Diddy kind of watching intentionally in court, losing it a little bit. That's a 26-minute clip. And then we will switch gears and we're going to jump over to a righteous perspective. Shout out to you, my brother. I react to a lot of things on this channel by him. Usually it's in a long-standing live stream, so you won't see me do one video. Although I might have to get back to that because when I do some short videos regarding my longer live stream, they do pretty well. When I hone in on a topic like Section 8 being cut by 33 billion. So shout out to a righteous perspective because he covered this very well. His compilation clip was pretty fire, as he said it would be. The first lady is definitely crazy. Like, this is the lady who's like mad because I don't know, the government's basically telling her if she wants some more assistance, she has to sell her 2024 BMW. But she had a 2024 BMW with $4,000 in food stamps. I mean, the math ain't mathing, but the lady is hilarious. So shout out to a righteous perspective. We're going to talk about President Trump's plan to cut Section 8 by 33 billion. I'm wondering what you guys think about this. So I personally do know people who have been on Section 8, still are on Section 8. Very interesting topic. It's touchy for some people, for others, not so much. What I liked about this video is that you can see, and what I like, folk that look like me, right? Black and brown folks that resemble the Black Hispanic community saying, like, hey, we don't have a problem with helping people, but like 2 or 3 years on Section 8 so we can help you get on your feet and take care of you. No one's going to argue about that. But anything past that, we kind of feel like you're taking advantage of the government or the taxpayer. Do they have a right to feel like that? I think that they do, depending on how long the person's been on it. I think that Section 8 has already experienced some sort of abuse over the years from the people who have used it. And some people might say, Q, you're downplaying that, like some sort of abuse. This thing has been like a circus. Some people have said that as well. So we'll take a look at that. Then we'll switch gears and we'll jump over to Bill O'Reilly. Shout out to Bill. Trump's foreign policy reviewed. Newsom gets tough and Pentagon cuts. So this was about 23 hours ago news from Bill O'Reilly. And then we're going to end the live stream. I usually try to end the live stream with a Christian clip. I usually end it with a clip from Cliff Buell. Shout out to Cliff Buell. We react to him all the time on the channel over here. Go check out some of his Christian YouTube shorts. But tonight I'm thinking about the 700 Club. Watch a lot of content from them. And they have an interview with the most influential black Republican, which is Byron Donalds. Talks a little bit about his backstory here. Talks about his faith. So we're going to take a look at that. And we're going to jump right into the first clip, guys. So I got to be honest. Part of the reason why I like the newsathons as well, too, where I'm not doing as much commentary. I'm not going to lie. It's hard for me not to comment on it as much as I want to. Any of you that has been rocking with me for the last couple months since when I first started, doing like kind of like political / news and real life commentary, it's like I would comment a lot more than I do now. Some of that is just because I want you guys to get the full story, right? So at one point I was watching everything before I jumped on live with you guys. So it was easy for me to pause and be like, oh yeah, I want to say something here. But really, it's more important to me that you guys actually hear the story and you hear the information. And then I kind of chime in because you can always go back to the live stream and hear the story again if you get distracted by me chiming in. So I'm not going to lie, like the newsathons, like it's low key, like sometimes it can be a little bit more fun. I'm not going to lie. But that's only because you guys get the full story and then I kind of get to chime in on the back end. Sometimes the only problem with that is that a lot of information goes by that you want to talk about. And then it's like when you get to the end, you don't always remember. So sometimes I just sum that up to like, okay, Lord, if you want me to talk about this point, bring it back to my memory. If he doesn't bring it back, I sum it up to it's not that important. But yes, I could also take notes. But because I have to come off the cuff often, most of the time I end up remembering what I want to bring up to you guys. Plus, super relaxed here over on Cozy Corner TV. So when I start spacing out or blanking out, you guys usually know and are super gracious with me because you'll see me go quiet for a second or I'll be like, okay guys, hold on, I'm having like a brain fart. And you work with me, so it all works out. All right guys, so first clip, let's jump in. Entertainment Tonight, Diddy trial, Cassie's testimony breakdown with CBS News, Jerica Duncan. Let me make sure this volume is up for you guys so I don't have to do that when I started. Yep. It wasn't all the way up. What a guy got, y'all. All right, let's jump in.
Rita, how would you describe Cassie's demeanor when she took the stand today?
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs.
What was Sean's reaction when he saw Cassie enter the courtroom?
You know, attorneys say that this is the first time that they've met since 2018 when she attended the funeral for Kim Porter, which is the mother of Sean Combs' 3 children. So to watch Sean Combs watching her was really interesting because they haven't seen each other in at least 6 years. But he can't say anything. You know, this is a moment for him where he has to be silent. And right now we're hearing what she says in terms of what happened during the course of their over 10-year relationship.
Is he showing any reaction to what she is saying on the stand?
I can tell you that immediately, the moment she opened her mouth, you could see that Combs was listening intently to everything that she had to say, as well as those jurors. People know that she was that star witness, the key person in all of this. When you think about that civil suit that came out in 2023, that was settled the day after, she really is the person that connects all the dots. When you look at the indictment and you look at some of the charges, she's the one talking about the freak-offs and what was involved and how she had to act. The prosecution is asking her questions to show that she wasn't in control. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak off, the freak off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Gosh, it's so difficult to hear all of these details. And since taking the stand, Cassie has been emotional. What made Cassie emotional on the stand?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in a relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did:
Triple,
security,
what's up?
driver, chief of staff,
Maria,
someone
what's
that
up?
handled financials. So
14,
it's showing that
good.
she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
What have reactions in the courtroom been when explicit details of these freak-offs are being described?
Honestly, I'm looking at his family a lot as these details are coming out, and they really don't have a reaction. They're listening. I thought it was interesting yesterday that during part of that testimony with the escort, the male escort, the girls left. So Sean Combs has 3 daughters that are in the courtroom. They left for some of that testimony yesterday, but today they are staying through all of that testimony from Cassie Ventura.
Cassie's
That's interesting.
Cassie's testimony is clearly exclusive to both sides, both the prosecution and the defense. What other celebrities might we see take the stand in this case?
You know, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
Hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day.
What are you learning about the nicknames that were used between Cassie and Sean?
Yeah, we learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution said, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on in her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
Her husband's been by her side. He's in the courtroom. Have you been able to see his reaction?
I was sitting about 2 rows behind Cassie's husband, and he also not showing any emotion that I can see visibly on his face, but just staying there and there obviously to support his wife. But I can only imagine how difficult it must be for everybody listening to these details, but definitely somebody who's as close to her as her husband.
Bro, I would want to jump over those court benches. I would want to jump over those court benches, man. Like, I'm somebody's husband. So I literally know what that feels like. That's why I'm just like, come on, bro. Like, Diddy is crazy. But it's crazy because Cassie being, you know, such a key witness and then her being so visibly pregnant. Yeah, people are definitely going to have some empathy. But it's like, man, I feel like that's going to have some weight there. Not to say that they're going to be necessarily biased, but it's just kind of crazy to see all of this play out. The last time her and Diddy were around each other, it was during Kim Porter's funeral. So it's been some time. I thought it was interesting that Jerica pointed out that the girls left yesterday during the male prostitutes testimony, but during Cassie's they stayed, which that really wasn't that shocking to me because she was in Diddy's life for a while. So it's not like the girls were unfamiliar to who Cassie was. So that's why I want to switch gears and go over to Just Holly. Shout out to you, Just Holly. Diddy loses it in court after Cassie reveals everything on day 2 of the trial. So this is a spinoff right from what we were just watching with Jerica. So I'm going to go ahead and play this so we can get into what happened, a little deeper details as to what happened in court today.
It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness. Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They called him a music mogul, a kingmaker, the ultimate success story in hip-hop. But yesterday, as Cassie Ventura took the stand in court, that carefully crafted image crumbled right before our eyes. Diddy's face turned pale as his ex-girlfriend detailed incidents so disturbing that even the most seasoned courtroom reporters were left speechless. The man who once controlled an empire couldn't control his reactions as Cassie revealed everything, and we mean everything, about what allegedly happened behind closed doors.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant. head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. He said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak off, the freak off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For decades, Sean Diddy Combs walked through the music industry like he owned it, because he practically did. The man built bad boy records from nothing, turned artists into superstars, and created a brand that expanded beyond music into fashion, vodka, and media. On paper, Diddy was the ultimate success story, the guy who showed everyone how to turn hip-hop into serious business money. But that perfect image, that carefully crafted
Hey, you know what, Triple? I don't know how many accusers are supposed to testify. I'm actually not sure about that. I know it's supposed to be a good amount, but Cassie's a key witness, and I know before her, they had this male prostitute that went by the name of Black. I spoke about him earlier in the live. And he seemed like he was a regular for them. Like, he would show up to random hotels, Cassie's house, Diddy's house. He had a code name. Diddy had like a picture of his driver's license, so he was like fearful of his life. So I'm not sure about how many, but because of who it is, like because of who that they're going up against, I'm thinking that they're only gonna go for like really special key witnesses, like witnesses that they feel like could take Diddy down. So Cassie's a key witness because we all saw the video where Diddy was acting like a freaking monster and like beating her like a rag doll in a hotel hallway. So that video was grotesque, and even people who didn't like Diddy, know Cassie, or like Cassie, everybody got mad at Diddy after they saw that video because they're like, dude, you're beating up on a woman like that. That's crazy.
Persona of business genius, mentor, and music visionary, it was hiding something much darker if you believe what's coming out in court right now. While magazines put him on covers for his business moves, while fans cheered his performances, while everyone saw his polished red carpet smile, Cassie Ventura was reportedly living a completely different reality. The contrast was shocking to everyone in that courtroom yesterday. Here's a man who presents himself as the ultimate professional in public. Custom suits, perfect grooming, always saying the right thing in interviews. But the allegations? They paint a picture of someone completely different behind closed doors. Someone unrecognizable to fans who only knew his public face. Court reporters noted how Diddy arrived for day two, looking exactly like the billionaire mogul we all recognize. He walked in surrounded by his team of high-priced lawyers, nodding confidently to people in the courtroom, even smiling occasionally. The man looked like he was heading to a business meeting, not facing serious allegations from his ex-girlfriend. That confidence? It didn't last long. Multiple witnesses described how Diddy's whole demeanor changed within the first 30 minutes of Cassie's testimony. The swagger disappeared, the confidence evaporated, the calm business face started showing cracks. As Cassie began describing specific incidents from their relationship, Diddy's legal team jumped up with objections repeatedly, almost desperately trying to stop her words. Can you imagine this? The man who built a billion-dollar empire, who controlled the careers of countless artists, who negotiated massive business deals, suddenly unable to control his own reactions in a courtroom. Witnesses described how Diddy couldn't sit still as Cassie spoke. The power dynamic had completely flipped. When Cassie actually took the stand, people in the courtroom couldn't take their eyes off Diddy. His face reportedly drained of color, like someone had pulled a plug. He started fidgeting with his tie, then his cufflinks, then just his hands. At one point, court observers noticed him frantically writing notes and passing them to his lawyers. The notes came so fast that one of his attorneys had to put a hand up to slow him down. One court reporter described it as watching someone realize they've lost control of the narrative for the first time in their life. Another person present said Diddy looked physically ill as Cassie calmly detailed their relationship. A third witness mentioned seeing Diddy close his eyes several times, like he couldn't bear to look at Cassie or hear what she was saying. And this was just the beginning. As Cassie's testimony continued through the afternoon, the courtroom would soon discover exactly why Diddy couldn't keep his cool. The specific allegation she was about to make would send shockwaves through the entire music industry and potentially destroy the legacy Diddy spent decades building. The man who always controlled the story was about to face a version he couldn't edit or produce.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and said, and she even said, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony. Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
When Cassie Ventura took the stand, you could hear a pin drop in that courtroom. Everyone knew this moment was coming, but nobody, not even Diddy's legal team, was truly ready for what she was about to say. After years of staying quiet, years of holding these stories inside, Cassie finally had her day to speak, and speak she did. She started small. That's what made it so effective. Cassie began by describing how she met Diddy when she was just 19 years old. He was already a major player in the music industry, a millionaire many times over with connections everywhere. She was a young model hoping for a music career. The power difference was massive from day one. And according to Cassie, Diddy knew exactly how to use that power. Her testimony built slowly, like a horror movie where you know something bad is coming but can't look away. First came the smaller control issues, how he allegedly demanded to know her whereabouts at all times, how he would show up unexpectedly if she was out with friends. Then came the career control, how she claims he would threaten to shelve her music if she didn't comply with his demands, how he allegedly sabotaged collaborations with other artists if he felt threatened. The most shocking part? Court transcripts show Cassie described how Diddy allegedly installed tracking software on her phone. She testified that he would sometimes call her minutes after she arrived somewhere, knowing exactly where she was. She claimed he gradually cut her off from friends who might put ideas in her head about leaving him. One by one, her support system allegedly disappeared until Diddy was all she had. The judge had to call for order 3 separate times during this part of the testimony. Diddy couldn't seem to control himself. He was shaking his head, whispering loudly to his lawyers, making faces that the jury could clearly see. Each time the judge warned him, he'd compose himself for 5 minutes before starting again. It was like watching someone who's never been told no suddenly realize they can't control the situation. Then came the moment that changed everything. Cassie pulled out her phone and handed it to her attorney. They projected text messages and emails onto a screen for the entire court to see. The look on Diddy's face? Pure shock. He clearly had no idea she had kept these messages all these years. Messages where he allegedly apologized for violent outbursts. Messages where he supposedly threatened her career if she told anyone what happened. Messages that directly contradicted statements his PR team had been putting out for years. But those messages were just the warm-up. As Cassie continued her testimony, she began describing physical assaults that allegedly took place throughout their relationship. The courtroom went completely silent as she detailed being thrown against walls during arguments. She described an incident where she claims he pushed her down a flight of stairs at a rental house in Miami. Most disturbing of all, she testified about multiple occasions where he allegedly choked her until she nearly lost consciousness, only stopping when she would go limp. Several jurors visibly reacted to these allegations. One older woman on the jury was seen wiping tears. A male juror couldn't maintain eye contact with Diddy after some of the more graphic descriptions. The most seasoned reporters in that courtroom admitted they were unprepared for the level of detail in Cassie's testimony. And all of this was just leading up to the hotel incident that would blow this case wide open.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm going to be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I thought I was going to die that night, Cassie said, her voice barely above a whisper as the courtroom leaned forward to hear every word. She was describing an incident at the Four Seasons Hotel that nobody, not the press, not the fans, not even the gossip blogs, had ever heard about before. This hotel incident had stayed buried for years. Cassie explained how she kept it secret out of fear. Fear for her career, fear for her safety, and fear that nobody would believe her over someone as powerful as Diddy. But now, sitting on that witness stand, she wasn't holding anything back. According to Cassie, what started as a normal industry after party turned into a nightmare. She testified that Diddy became enraged after seeing her talking to another music executive. She described how his smile disappeared, how he grabbed her arm so hard it left marks, and how he whispered threats in her ear while maintaining his public face in front of others at the event. The most shocking part? Cassie told the court that Diddy literally dragged her through the hotel lobby to the elevators. She said she was crying and trying to pull away, making enough of a scene that hotel security approached them. But the security guard backed off when he recognized Diddy. He just asked if everything was okay, and when Mr. Combs said yes, he walked away. He didn't even ask me if I was okay, Cassie testified. Then came the photos. Cassie's lawyer presented a series of images she had taken of herself the morning after the incident. Bruises on her arms, a split lip, redness around her neck. These weren't professional photos. They were shaky, clearly taken in a bathroom mirror, which somehow made them even more disturbing. Cassie explained she took them because she was afraid nobody would believe her otherwise. Diddy's legal team jumped into action, trying everything to keep these photos from being shown to the jury. They argued the photos weren't properly authenticated, that they could have been from anything, that they should have been submitted during discovery. The judge denied every objection, and the photos were displayed on the courtroom screens. The jury's reaction said everything. One female juror physically covered her mouth in shock. 2 male jurors couldn't even look at the images, turning their heads away. A juror in the back row was seen writing frantically in her notebook, her hand shaking. This hotel incident was the bombshell nobody saw coming. There had been no mention of it in previous statements or filings. Diddy's team had no prepared response because they didn't know it was coming. The look of panic on his lawyers' faces was obvious to everyone in the courtroom. Cassie described how Diddy allegedly threw a champagne bottle at her head, missing her by inches and shattering against the wall. She testified that he destroyed the hotel room in a rage, breaking a lamp, flipping a table, and punching a hole in the bathroom door. Most disturbing of all, she claimed he prevented her from leaving the room for over 48 hours, taking her phone and threatening consequences if she tried to call for help. As this part of the testimony ended, everyone in that courtroom turned to look at Diddy. His reaction would become the moment that defined the entire trial and possibly the rest of his career.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual, it may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution said, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on in her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
It was the moment nobody in that courtroom will ever forget. Diddy, The man who built an empire on his ability to stay cool under pressure completely lost it right in front of everyone. The facade cracked, then shattered, and what was underneath wasn't pretty. You have to understand, this is a guy who spent decades perfecting his public image. The smooth-talking businessman, the calm, collected mogul, the man who never lets you see him sweat. But as Cassie's testimony reached its most damaging points, that carefully maintained mask started slipping. Court reporters who've covered hundreds of celebrity cases said they'd never seen anything like it. Diddy literally transformed before their eyes. From the confident industry titan who walked in that morning to a man who looked cornered and desperate as the afternoon wore on. With each new allegation Cassie made, he seemed to physically shrink in his chair. His legal team was working overtime. I heard from someone who was sitting right behind them that Diddy's main attorney kept putting his hand on Diddy's arm, trying to calm him down. At one point, one of the lawyers actually passed him a note that reportedly said "stay calm" in all capital letters, but it wasn't working. Things got so bad that Diddy slammed his hand down on the table when Cassie described an incident at his Hampton house. He hit it so hard that the sound echoed through the courtroom. The judge immediately stopped proceedings and warned him, "Mr. Combs, if you can't control yourself, I will have you removed from this courtroom." For a moment, it looked like he might actually get thrown out of his own trial. Throughout Cassie's testimony, witnesses saw Diddy constantly shaking his head and mouthing, "That's not true," whenever she described something particularly damaging. It was like he forgot there was a jury watching his every reaction. One courtroom observer said it looked like a man who had never been called out before suddenly realizing he couldn't control the narrative. The power shift in that room was incredible. For their entire relationship, Diddy allegedly controlled everything about Cassie's life. Now she was speaking her truth, and he couldn't stop her. He couldn't cut her mic. He couldn't have security remove her. He couldn't spin it through his PR team. He just had to sit there and take it. But the real breaking point came when Cassie started talking about threats. She testified that Diddy had allegedly threatened her family if she ever spoke about what happened between them. And then came the bombshell nobody saw coming. She had recordings. Actual audio recordings of his voice making these threats that her lawyer played for the court. That's when Diddy completely lost it. He shot up from his chair and shouted directly at Cassie, "You know that's not how it happened." His legal team physically grabbed him, trying to pull him back into his seat. It took 3 of his lawyers to restrain him as he continued trying to speak over the recording playing in the courtroom. The judge immediately called for a recess, but the damage was already done. Everyone saw it. The jury, the reporters, the court.
Yo, that's crazy. He actually acted like this in the courtroom. Hold on, y'all. I gotta run this back. Listen, y'all, hit that like button for me. I got 46 of y'all in the chat. Hit that like button for me, W chat. Let me run this back because I gotta hear this. Like, if he actually did these actions in court.
Turned to look at Diddy. His reaction would become the moment that defined the entire trial and possibly the rest of his career.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual, it may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution said, what does CC stand for? They said, she said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on in her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
It was the moment.
See, I know for some of you guys this isn't going to make sense because I've literally been in circles where people are asking questions, which I think are dumb questions because I have sisters that have been in these situations. And they're saying things like, well, why didn't she just leave? Why didn't she just get out of there? And it's really a stupid, asinine, insensitive question to ask if you've never been in an abusive relationship. So this is man or woman because I know men who literally have put makeup on because their wives were hitting them. And like they had to go to church and they were covering it up, right, to protect their wives, right? So this doesn't only happen to women, but it makes sense when they're saying that she's doing things when she was younger that now this is almost a 40-year-old person. Me and Cassie we're pretty close in age. So with that being said, if someone were to ask me, well, how different do you think right now, versus when you were 22? It's just like night and day. I don't think anything like I did when I was 22. I don't even think anything right now the way I thought when I was 30 years old. So even when we're younger, we can be in certain situations where we're just not good at putting boundaries up, or we don't even know what the heck a boundary even is, right? So we walk ourselves into these horrible situations with these horrible people. We don't surround ourselves around the right people. We sometimes get around these narcissistic abusers and they isolate you, right? Because that's one of the first things they want to do. They want to take you away from your friends and your family, which, ladies and gentlemen, as a married person who has also dated but saved a lot of the important things for marriage, I will tell you this. That is a red flag. If you have sex with somebody before marriage, red flags look hot pink. Shout out to Tim Ross. So you don't really see red flags. But I can assure you that a narcissist and an abuser will do these things. They will isolate you. They will all of a sudden have a problem with going to family gatherings, and they don't like your mom, and like they either always want you to be with their people or they don't want you guys to be around anybody. Red flag, ladies and gentlemen, red flag.
Nobody in that courtroom will ever forget. Diddy, the man who built an empire on his ability to stay cool under pressure, completely lost it right in front of everyone. The facade cracked, then shattered, and what was underneath wasn't pretty. You have to understand, this is a guy who spent decades perfecting his public image. The smooth-talking businessman, the calm, collected mogul, the man who never lets you see him sweat. But as Cassie's testimony reached its most damaging points, that carefully maintained mask started slipping. Court reporters who've covered hundreds of celebrity cases said they'd never seen anything like it. Diddy literally transformed before their eyes. From the confident industry titan who walked in that morning to a man who looked cornered and desperate as the afternoon wore on. With each new allegation Cassie made, he seemed to physically shrink in his chair. His legal team was working overtime. I heard from someone who was sitting right behind them that Diddy's main attorney kept putting his hand on Diddy's arm, trying to calm him down.
Oh, wow.
At one point, one of the lawyers actually passed him a note that reportedly said, "Stay calm," in all capital letters, but it wasn't working. Things got so bad that Diddy slammed his hand down on the table when Cassie described an incident at his Hampton house. He hit it so hard that the sound echoed through the courtroom. The judge immediately stopped proceedings and warned him, "Mr. Combs, if you can't control yourself, I will have you removed from this courtroom."
Wow.
For a moment, it looked like he might actually get thrown out of his own trial. Throughout Cassie's testimony, witnesses saw Diddy constantly shaking his head and mouthing, "That's not true," whenever she described something particularly damaging. It was like he forgot there was a jury watching his every reaction. One courtroom observer said it looked like a man who had never been called out before, suddenly realizing he couldn't control the narrative. The power shift in that room was incredible. For their entire relationship, Diddy allegedly controlled everything about Cassie's life. Now she was speaking her truth, and he couldn't stop her. He couldn't cut her mic. He couldn't have security remove her. He couldn't spin it through his PR team. He just had to sit there and take it. But the real breaking point came when Cassie started talking about threats. She testified that Diddy had allegedly threatened her family if she ever spoke about what happened between them. And then came the bombshell nobody saw coming. She had recordings. Actual audio recordings of his voice making these threats that her lawyer played for the court. That's when Diddy completely lost it. He shot up from his chair and shouted directly at Cassie, "You know that's not how it happened." His legal team physically grabbed him, trying to pull him back into his seat. It took 3 of his lawyers to restrain him as he continued trying to speak over the recording playing in the courtroom. The judge immediately called for a recess, but the damage was already done. Everyone saw it. The jury, the reporters, the court officials, the man.
So that's why I ran this back, chat, because he really acted like that in the courtroom. Like I thought, yeah, Triple. Like I'm saying wow too. Like I thought this was something that people was assuming would be a reaction, but he was in the courtroom acting like that. So he shot up. He said, you know, it didn't happen like that, showing all these visible signs of guilt. I don't know, Sean. You looking real guilty. You looking real. It's the, you know what, y'all? It's the baby oil withdrawals. That's what I think it is. It's the, bro, he forgot a jury was there. Like, my man forgot a jury was there. Oh, man.
Man who built his reputation on being untouchable had just shown exactly how touchable he really was. As they led Diddy out for the recess, he looked like a completely different person than the one who had walked in that morning. The mask was gone, and what was underneath wasn't pretty. Just when everyone thought they'd heard it all, the real bombshell dropped. Cassie had evidence nobody saw coming. Not the judge, not the jury, and especially not Diddy. For years, she'd been quietly collecting proof of what she claimed happened during their relationship. Text messages, emails, photos, all stored in multiple places where Diddy couldn't find them or delete them. The courtroom went completely silent when Cassie mentioned she had text messages from other celebrities who had witnessed Diddy's behavior firsthand. These weren't just random industry people either. According to court transcripts, these were some of Diddy's closest friends and business associates, people who had been in his inner circle for years, who had seen things at private parties and backstage at events that the public never knew about. Diddy's face said it all. A person sitting in the gallery described him as looking physically ill when Cassie mentioned these celebrity witnesses. His legal team immediately jumped up, objecting loudly and demanding a sidebar with the judge. They argued these messages shouldn't be allowed as evidence, that they were hearsay, that they weren't properly submitted during discovery. The judge wasn't having it. After reviewing the messages in private, he returned to the courtroom and overruled all objections, calling the messages highly relevant to the case and allowing them to be entered into evidence. That decision alone caused Diddy to put his head in his hands.
Yeah, I bet.
He knew what was coming.
I bet.
One by one, messages from famous names appeared on the courtroom screens. A major rapper had texted Cassie after a Grammy after party. "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can stay at my place if you need to." A female pop star had written, "I've known him for 15 years and I've never seen him act like that with anyone else. This isn't normal. Please call me." Most damaging were messages from a longtime producer who had worked with Diddy for decades. He had texted Cassie after witnessing an incident at a studio. "I can't be around this anymore. I told him to get help. Call me when you're safe." These messages completely contradicted what Diddy had been saying publicly, that no one had ever witnessed inappropriate behavior, that these were private matters being twisted by Cassie. Now the court could see that people had witnessed incidents, had been concerned, had reached out to help her. Then came Diddy's own messages. Screenshots showed texts where he appeared to acknowledge incidents. "I'm sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again." Another text from him read, "Whatever you need to make this right, just name it. New car, new apartment, whatever you want."
Narcissist. Disgusting. This is what they do, y'all. This is disgusting, bro. I'm sorry. You know how I get when I drink. It'll never happen again. I'm like, come on, bro. Oh, my God. I can't stand guys like this.
A third message series showed what looked like attempts to keep incidents quiet through financial offers. "My lawyer can draw up the paperwork tomorrow. 2 million. Clean break. You don't talk about anything from the past 5 years. As these messages were read aloud, something interesting happened in the gallery. Several people who had arrived with
Wait, what was that last thing he said?
series showed what looked like attempts to keep incidents quiet through financial offers. My lawyer can draw up the paperwork tomorrow. 2 million. Clean break. You don't talk about anything from the past 5 years. As these messages were read aloud, something
Disgusting. My lawyer can draw up the paperwork tomorrow. 2 million. You don't talk about anything for the last 5 years. I'm glad she sued him. That was disgusting. $2 million. You don't talk about anything for the last 5 years. I'm glad. Where did Cassie get in that lawsuit, chat? Y'all remember? She got 30 million, didn't she? She got 30 mil? That's crazy. $2 million. Like Diddy.
Something interesting happened in the gallery. Several people who had arrived with Diddy that morning, members of his entourage who had been sitting behind him in support, quietly got up and left the courtroom. They slipped out one by one, unable to continue sitting there as the evidence mounted. By the time this part of testimony ended, Diddy was sitting almost alone at his table, just him and his legal team. The show of support he'd walked in with that morning had evaporated. The evidence no one saw coming had changed everything. As day 2 wrapped up, the man who walked into court as music's untouchable king left, looking defeated. The security team around him couldn't protect him from what just happened in that courtroom. The empire he spent decades building might be crumbling in real time. Cassie Ventura didn't just tell her story today, she potentially rewrote Diddy's entire legacy. The evidence, the testimony, the recordings, it all painted a picture nobody can unsee. The question isn't whether Diddy can win this case anymore. It's whether his reputation can ever recover from what the world heard in that courtroom today.
Probably not. I think it's going to be a hard time. This is going to be a hard time for Diddy to recover from this. And you know what? Everyone, like, okay, so people could get into trouble and there could be allegations. I think the thing that's going to be hardest for Diddy to recover from, and I knew it when I saw it, it's going to be that video. Like, a lot of people will say, well, you know, in relationships, like, sometimes people go through that queue and it just happens behind closed doors. And I would say you're absolutely right. I'm not condoning it. It does happen behind closed doors. But when there's a video like that, like, that's pretty damaging. So let's rewind and let's just go back to, like, Chris Brown and Rihanna. We remember that, right? What was the most damaging thing to Chris Brown's career? Was it the fact that there were allegations that him and Rihanna were fighting? Or was it those pictures that we saw come out and we saw what Rihanna's face looked like? Those pictures were so damaging for Chris Brown. I mean, now we see him recovering, and I want Chris Brown to win. Like, I've always been a Chris Brown fan, you know? Hey, people go through stages. I'm not condoning anything he's done. My sisters have been in abusive relationships, and let's just say I got stories that I can't say online because I would incriminate myself. So I don't like dudes that do that. Like, I'm just going on record to say there's just a certain type of guy that hits on women, and it's not a brave one and it's not a courageous one, but it is a damaged one. It is a damaged one. And Chris Brown went through a season, you know. I want to see him win. I don't condone anything that happened with Rihanna, but he has children now. He's at a different point in his life, right? So let's let him live. With that being said, Diddy's not at the same place. Diddy was doing this when he was younger. He was doing it when he was older. He was doing it a couple of months before Cassie tried to sue him, which is why she gets only offered $2 million, which I'm glad that she sued him, because $30 million, like, that's a slap in the face. Like, I'll give you $2 million if you shut up and don't say anything that's happened in the last 5 years. Heck no. I'm super happy that she sued him. That's crazy. It's narcissistic, and we can see that he was still controlling as heck to the very end. All right, guys, so the Diddy trial we'll be following every day. You know, over here, Triple, you know, let them know. On Cozy Corner TV, we go live here every single day except Sunday. So we'll be back tomorrow covering the Diddy trial again. Still covering the Shannon Sharp situation. So we stay into a lot of the we get into a lot of the cultural, not just the political, but things that's going on in culture that affect us or those people who we look up to, that, you know, it troubles us. Like, Shannon Sharp is like to a lot of people. So when the Shannon Sharp situation happened, that was troubling to the black community, you know. Things like TD Jakes stepping down, things like the Diddy trial starting, all of this stuff, like cultural, we keep up with it here, not just politics and religion and conservatism, all of that. So with that being said, one of my favorite things to keep track of, political things, Shout out to A Righteous Perspective. The internet loses it over Trump's plan to cut Section 8 by $33 billion. If you know what Section 8 is, put 1 in the chat. Am I dealing with people who are knowledgeable of what Section 8 is? Do you guys know what Section 8 is? Do you guys have friends or family members or, you know, co-workers that are on Section 8 or deal with Section 8? We're going to play this clip. I'm going to just read this quick little title here because you guys might not be able to see it. It says, DHS is forcing me to sell my 2024 BMW or my food stamps get cut from $4K to $88 a month. They also cut my cash benefits and telling me Section 8 will no longer pay 95% of my rent. What do I do? So there is a plethora of problems here when I saw this, right? Like, I mean, I got questions. Like, where do we start at? Do we start at the fact that you have a 2024 BMW and $4,000 worth of food stamps? The math ain't math, and why do we have that? Because I'm pretty sure if you have a 2024 BMW, you have a car note. I'm almost positive if you have a 2024 BMW, you have a car note. Now, I'm not saying that that's everyone, but you have a 2024 BMW and you're getting $4,000 in food stamps. Okay. I'm not judging her, right? Because she could be a single mother of like 4 kids. I don't know. I have sisters that have 4 kids and they're single mothers, right? So I'm not judging her that much, right? But I'm just saying, does it have to be, okay, where do I start? Does it have to be a 2024? Does it have to be a BMW? I don't know. Like, could it be like I just got questions, right? So she's upset that it's getting cut from $4K to $88 a month, which is substantial. So in her defense, that's crazy. Like if I was living off of $4,000 worth of food stamps and I was about to drop to just 88, I would be nervous too because that's a substantial drop, right? But could it be that there's room to recoup some of that money if we don't have a 2024 BMW? I'm just asking. Like I'm not saying she has to get rid of the car. I'm just asking questions here, right? So they also cut my cash benefits and telling me Section 8 will no longer pay 95% of her rent. So she's going to talk about this and how they're no longer going to pay, I think, 90, but now only 10, which means she has to pay 90. This is why I said, am I dealing with people in the chat that understand what Section 8 is? So this is not challenging for me, but I've been in some challenging conversations. I got a couple of people that do know what Section 8 is. Sherry, boss, shout out to you. She's a welfare queen. Yeah, I've heard her brag. Shout out to you guys in the chat. Guys, hit that like button for me. I've heard her brag. I don't feel for her. It might be $4K a year in food stamps, about $300 a month. Yeah, it's not 4K a year in food stamps, Trip. It's $4K a month. So that's what it is. It says DHS is forcing me to sell my 2024 BMW or my food stamps get cut from $4K to $88 a month. So she's getting $4,000 right now, but they're going to go down to it's going to go down to $88. I said, which is substantial. I just feel like the math is not mathing, and she can recoup some of this money. I feel like we're having poor budgeting decisions, right? This is also coming from a person who has literally sat with family members and be like, dude, do you have to be on Section 8 this long? I mean, do you have to be on food stamps this long? Now, when we look over this video from a righteous perspective, you're going to have individuals, white, black, brown, Hispanic, they're going to all say, hey, you know what? If we are supporting people for 2 to 3 years to get on their feet, we don't have a problem with that. Like as a taxpayer, especially a single mom as taxpayers, hey, we'll support these people. We want you to get on your feet, be able to support your children, you know, get them educated, have a decent life, have food on the table, right? I think it's a problem when you're on it for 8, 9, 10 years. Now, some people might say, Q, you're being overzealous. No, I'm not. I actually know people who have had food stamps this long. I don't know how they're doing that. I've never actually had food stamps. The only type of governmental assistance I've ever had is unemployment, and I've only had it like once in my life. So, and I wasn't even on it for 6 months. So there's a lot of just programs I'm not aware of, but I have family members that deal with them, and I think that to some extent some of them abuse them. I'm just saying, like, maybe I'm not made privy to some of this information, but I mean, I mean, are you supposed to receive the max amount of food stamps that you can receive, and at the same time you're not reporting that you went back to work? I think you're rigging the system. Now, you guys tell me if I'm being overzealous, but I think that to some extent, that's you rigging the system. As a taxpayer, I had no problem helping a single mom or a single dad with children get on their feet. If they got to get on Section 8 or some type of food stamp assistance because they're single parents, I don't have a problem with that, right? But are they on it for a decade? Like, are they on it for 12 years? Because then I have questions. Like, either the program is faulty or the person is taking advantage of the system. One of the two is true, though, right? S. Smith, she must live in California, Cherry Boys. At first, she was bragging. She changed her tune recently. Yeah, I'm sure she did. Because it's embarrassing when you're going to get online and you're going to expose the fact that you have a 2024 BMW and you're mad that your food stamps are getting cut from $4K to $88. Well, someone's going to be like, how about you drive a 2024 Honda Civic? Like, your car note will probably be a lot cheaper. All right, guys, so let's take a look at the clip.
I got a DHS letter in the mail this morning, and I just now opened it. And somebody reported me to the state of Michigan because I'm making money on TikTok, and I drive a 2024 BMW. They have cut my food stamps from almost $4,000 a month down to $88 a month. They are telling me if I want a review that I have to sell my car. So you're telling me if you were on welfare, food stamps, cash assistance, Section 8, you can't drive a nice car. They are forcing me to sell my brand new BMW, or I lose almost $4,000 in food stamps. Not only that, they have taken my cash assistance totally away. They are telling me that Section 8 will no longer be paying 95% of my rent, only 10% of my rent. So I will have to pay a little over $400 a month now instead of $60.
Yes.
They cannot.
It looks like the Doge got you too, boo.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel with your man Wise. People are losing their minds over this Section 8 being cut, and it's really being cut from the federal government, and they're kicking it back to the states and allow them to deal with it. I'm sure the federal government will subsidize the states, but it's going to be the state's responsibility moving forward in the very near future. I'm 100% here for it, man. I'm 100% here for it, but I got a couple of clips to share with you guys. This compilation is fire. Like, share, subscribe. Let's get into it.
Picking up for Section 8, y'all. Don't just come for Section 8. Elon and the Trump administration has identified $260 million of cuts that they can make, starting with the Section 8 vouchers program. What does this mean? A lot of people are going to be homeless. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because when Kevin Samuels said that winter was coming, and I remember a certain group, who a lot of that group benefited or have benefited or are benefiting from Section 8, laughed when he passed away. And it looks like winter is here. And what does this mean? They're saying Doge and the Trump administration, they're going to cut $260 million from the HUD budget. And the first thing that they're going to do is cut half of the HUD workforce. And you know how long it takes to get into Section 8 and get your vouchers and get everything paid. You know how long renters, landlords have been waiting on their rents. This is going to make it 10 times worse. Here's what's going to happen. The government is going to stop paying the landlords. The landlords are then going to have no choice but to evict the people staying in Section 8. And you're not going to get any coverage because this is a government, a federally funded program. So they are not going to care that these people are being evicted. We're going to have homelessness explode. Now, I wonder for all of the strong, independent ladies that are in Section 8, how does marriage and relationship and men providing for you look now?
Shots fired. Okay, so here we go. If I got any ladies in the chat, this guy's hilarious. But he asks us a good question. So most of you guys on my channel know that I'm pretty conservative, right? Conservative leaning. It's fine. Most of my family's very liberal. I do not hate liberal people. I have a lot of liberal friends. I love liberal people. But it's interesting though to me when he asks this question, ladies, how does it look for a man providing for you now? because later on in the video he says something to the effect of, the government can't be your husband. You know, this is another talk for another day when we're reacting to something that's related to that. But I know like the chat's gonna go crazy on that day. Everybody is, because this is gonna be something that's controversial. Listen, I don't care about women being independent. I have plenty of sisters that like blood sisters. My sisters are very independent women. They're very strong women. And with that being said, if you were having a private conversation with me and you say, Q, do you feel like your sisters to some extent have acted like the government was their husband? I would say absolutely. It's ridiculous. Absolutely. From a conservative standpoint, I don't like the way that the government handles taking care of women, and like single women in particularly. I feel like they give them way too many perks for them to be alone, and I just don't like the setup. I don't like it. I think that it is a setup. And I think it's part of the reason why society is a little cray-cray today. And why we're a little bit off the rails, right? And if anyone were to push back and say, Q, I think you're overzealous, we're not off the rails. Well, I don't care if you think I'm overzealous, because America already proved that I'm not, right? When they voted for Donald Trump, right? Because if we were being so far left and that was okay, why in the heck would the country bring us so far right and do it with a president that's not an ordinary politician? Because the people that can't stand it too far left, they were like, oh, hell to the no. We have to swing this thing back right. We're way too far off the rails. So absolutely, I feel like my sisters have acted like the government is their husband to some extent, instead of having reasonable standards, right, for a good man that's working and can take care of them, and he's willing, right? Like they have the stupidest requirements for a husband, right? They don't have any biblical standards for one. They just have their idea of what a husband should be. And yeah, I've watched a lot of women fall to their demise because of this. Like I really have. And it's a sad thing for me. So you guys are gonna learn about me really quick. Like I like to stand in those areas where there's tension. Like I'm cool with that. Like we can go there with those type of conversations. And at the same time, I have no problem with women being 100% independent. Like they have that right. Like I don't think that like women are less than or any of that. We see women CEOs. We see a lot of women making more money than men. Like none of that stuff bothers me. I'm not intimidated by any of that. When my wife is at work, like actively working in a secular workforce, she makes more money than me because she's in the medical field. So and it's what she does in the medical field, and I don't care about that. You know, I'm like, babe, let me get $1. Like I don't feel demasculated any way, shape, or form. But I still think that this brother has a good point. So I'm gonna go back a little bit, and I'm gonna let you guys finish watching this.
What's going to happen? The government is going to stop paying the landlords. The landlords are then going to have no choice but to evict the people staying in Section 8. And you're not going to get any coverage because this is a federally funded program. So they are not going to care that these people are being evicted. We're going to have homelessness explode. Now, I wonder for all of the strong, independent ladies that are in Section 8, how does marriage and relationship and men providing for you look now with no Section 8? How does it look? I bet it looks a lot different, don't it?
He has a point, and rest in peace to the late, great Kevin Samuels. He has a point. You have a lot of women out there that are, in the community, that have come out there strong, independent, don't need anybody, or they have all these, just high expectations for a man. But maybe, just maybe, this is part of the plan to force people to get together and start building lives together. The government can no longer be your husband, ma'am. I'm sorry. It just...
The government can no longer be your husband, ma'am. I'm sorry. Let's run that back a little bit so we can give the chat a little bit of attention. I love when you guys send me good questions. W chat, bro. You guys are it. If you're not liberal, you're not unliberated. Okay, I can dig that comment. Let's see, what else we got? Auto and... What do you have to say about Trump accepting a jet like the ones in 9/11 from the same people? Okay, we can get into that in a little bit. I'll address that one. And if I forget, I'll probably, you know what? Let me just screenshot it, because that way, if I do, I have it for tomorrow if you come back. What do you have to say about Trump deporting black and brown people and importing white people? Trump deporting black and brown people. So you're probably referring to the people that he's sending to El Salvador. and places like that. Well, Trump's not deporting black and brown people. So if you're referring to black people as just people who have like a lot of melanin, but they're not African American people, well then he can deport them because they're not American people, right? The U.S. government reserves that right. So as somebody who has served in the Marine Corps for a number of years, at least 2 terms I was in the Marine Corps, I know like this much about foreign policy, and I'm being facetious, but I am aware that the United States government does reserve the right to deport people that aren't American or that have visas or that are here on whatever terms, and this is for every single country. As a matter of fact, Americans probably would have a harder time in a lot of other countries, which is, I find is very interesting in a way that we are defending some people here that are not from our country, as if we can go to another country and do some of the things that they're doing and not get deported and or arrested, which we probably would get it worse, right? So how do I feel about him deporting black and brown people if they're not American and they're here illegally? I don't feel no way, if you want me to be honest with you about that. I mean, I feel a way if they're here, even if maybe their citizenship isn't totally perfect and they haven't committed a crime. I think at that point it's a little petty to kind of seek somebody like that out. Now that's an American citizen who has fought in the Marine Corps and lives in America and who's fought for the country. I can say that. Like if I'm not dealing with a violent person who doesn't have any intention on harming America, they're trying to assimilate as best as they can. They're paying taxes. They're going to work. Their children are in school. Very, very much less worried about a person like that than somebody who a number 2 court has says, hey, you're here illegally, you have a deportation order in place, and oh, by the way, you're a part of an MS-13 gang. I have a lot more trouble with somebody like that. So if he's deporting people like that, I don't care. And importing white people, so you're probably referring to the South African people who he deported here, which they're not white people, they're actually South African people, but they just have no melanin. But I get what you're saying. I don't feel no way about that either, because I'm a big advocate for America being a country where people can seek asylum, right? Because I fought for the country, so I can feel like that. Yeah, so if he's doing it under those guidelines, then sure, I don't care. Now, you might say, well, I think you're contradicting yourself because the black and brown people that he's deporting, what if they were here seeking asylum? Well, if that were the case, then they should have followed the law and did what they should do to seek asylum. Now, granted, there are certain situations that I don't know if you guys are made privy to that it's kind of impossible for sometimes for people to get citizenship in the United States. There's this program called DACA, I think it was, and I think it stopped officially around, I think it was stopping around 2007 or 9, and they were trying to push for it to stop, but it kind of lingered on. I think it came to a full stop around 2017. And with that, it was kind of like a program to where if you got some type of paperwork by a certain date, that you were able to stay here and seek citizenship. But if you got it anytime after that date, that there was no pathway to citizenship. And that's the case with, I believe it's a 19-year-old student. I'm not sure if she was in Florida or Texas, but she got pulled over by the police. And I know before that, her dad got pulled over. He went to an ICE detention center. Then they pulled her over, and she went there. And they had her mother and her sisters on TV, kind of talking about how hard life has been, you know, since that's happened to her. So based on the views that I just told you that I have, do I feel bad for that girl? Of course, to an extent I do, because her family's not doing anything. They're not blowing up buildings. They're not terrorists. They're just here going to school and working. They're not doing anything. But we have an administration that's in place, and they're cracking down. So with that being said, there's going to be some things that, there's going to be some mistakes that happen. There's going to be some bad mistakes that happen, especially when you move as aggressively as President Trump is. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and jump back into this because I want you guys to finish this up. So I'm probably not going to interrupt anymore. I'm just going to let us go all the way through.
This is part of the plan to force people to get together and start building lives together. The government can no longer be your husband, ma'am. I'm sorry. It just can't. Now I'm all for supporting our senior citizens. I'm all for, supporting our disabled. But the able-bodied people who are just out here living their lives recklessly, making poor choice after poor choice, we, the taxpayers, should not have to subsidize your poor choices. But I got a couple more clips to share with you guys. Let's keep going.
I don't know if you guys heard the news, but Doge led by Elon Musk has proposed making significant cuts to the Section 8 program. Now, this will affect about 3.5 million low-income families and landlords and property owners who depend on those payments from Section 8. They are also talking about reducing the Section 8 staff by 50%, resulting in delayed payments, delays in inspection, and all things Section 8. Now, here's my personal opinion. Of course, I can sympathize and empathize for people who depend on those programs. Having family members and people within the community, I know how this news may feel scary to them, but the truth is, Section 8 was never created or intended for people to stay on for a lifetime. I do believe there should be time limits, maybe 5 years, so it gives you enough time to go back to school, find a trade, get some training, where you can secure employment to get those get housing where you can go in the market and pay those competitive rent prices. Also, it gives an opportunity for the new people, the new group who can benefit from these programs to be ushered in. Also, with those who are disabled or senior citizens, I don't believe those Section 8 programs should be touched for them because there's no way they can go out in this market and afford that market rental prices. So if you are on Section 8, know someone on Section 8, don't just put you guys on notice. Get your affairs in order because this program will not look like what you've been accustomed to within the upcoming months. And that's just the truth.
In this budget, it empowers states. Listen. I'm going to read it slowly. The budget empowers, gives powers to the states by transforming the current federal dysfunctional rental assistance program into a state-based formula grant, which would allow states to design their own rental assistance programs based on their unique needs and preferences.
People better start taking Trump seriously. Like, if show me better than you can tell me who was a person, it's him. He's what, now talking about getting rid of housing? That is literally going to force people that have not paid that amount in whatever their rent costs home.
Okay, guys, let me run that back a little bit. You guys know I like to give the chat attention. Okay, Autoin, I see you want some attention. How can black people whose ancestors were brought over in chains be okay with illegal deportation? What part of what I said don't you understand? Based on what I explained to you, that's not illegal deportation. So what part of it don't you understand? If a court, you know what a number 2 court is? You got 1, 2, and 3, right? Or you could say 3, 2, and 1, right? So 3 would be like a trials court, 2 would be an appellate court, 1 would be something like the Supreme Court. If a number 2 court says to somebody, you have a deportation order in place, that means that you're in the country illegally. That means that you're supposed to be gone. That means that you can self-deport before we kick you out of here. Are you unaware of that? That's probably why you think it's illegal deportation, right? So how can black people whose ancestors were brought over in chains be okay with illegal deportation? Because guess what? I'm an American citizen. Those were my ancestors. I'm an American citizen. Like, so I don't get deported, buddy. That's why I can be okay with it. If you're in the country, I fought for the country, right? So someone asked me where somebody fought in Desert Storm. Shout out to you and thank you for your service. Iraqi freedom in Afghanistan. So I do have a couple of ribbons on my dress blues. I do have the global war on terrorism. And I should bring out my Diddy 214, but I'm not going to do it right now because I have to search through my bag for it. And I'm talking to Auto N right now. But that's not illegal deportation. If a number 2 appellate court says you have a deportation order in place, you are already here illegally. It's an order in place for you to go, buddy. You're already here legally. Okay, MS-13. If the President of the United States declares MS-13 as a terrorist group, then guess what? You actually don't have a right to a fair trial. Did you know that? You know why you don't have a right to a fair trial? Because the United States does not aid and abet terrorists. So if the President of the United States deems MS-13 as a terrorist group, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get kicked out of the country. So my friend, please do not put stupid scenarios in place. Like, how can black people whose, okay, those were my ancestors. Well, thank you for doing your homework. Good for you. But the reason why I can be okay with it is because I'm an American citizen. That's why I can be okay with it. And I know if you're in the country illegally because I fought for the country. Like, did you fight for the country? Because if you did, like, you have a say-so in some of this. I mean, we all do as American citizens, but for someone who actually fought, the reason why I can be okay with it is because you're here illegally. Like, if a court says you're here illegally and you're a part of a group that the United States president has deemed a terrorist group, what are we talking about, my guy? Like, what are we doing in this conversation right now? Like, you're breaking the law at that point. Are you aware of that, Auto In? Like, I'm hoping that you're aware of that. Oh my God, he said. But I'm like, I hope that I've expressed that for you, Auto. I've tried to articulate that as best as I can. I've done. I probably won't listen to your show anymore. You're siding with the KKK. Trump is in fact the Grand Dragon. I mean, I'm not siding with the KKK, bro. This is why I don't vote Democrat usually, because the Democrats side with the KKK, and most of my white liberal friends either don't know that or they don't believe it. And you know what? I still love them. I'm cool with that. Like, we're all ignorant to some degree, but it's like, dude, you're gonna come back and you're gonna watch it because I've entertained you and you know that I'm a fair person. I'm balanced. Like, I'm gonna talk about it in a balanced way. 4.5 million on Section 8 is actually far lower than I thought. Yeah, training programs would be a great option for them. They should ease into it and not dump them. Yeah, Triple, I do agree with that. Like, I'm not with like just making somebody's life chaotic. Don't get me wrong. Like, I do want, do you like Trump? I mean, do I like Trump? I think that that's an immature question to ask. Like, I'm literally almost 40 years old. I do a lot of things that I don't like because I'm an adult. I think he's the commander-in-chief, and as somebody who served in the military, I'm not big on coming on the internet and bashing the commander-in-chief. I don't agree with everything he does. I think some things he does, I'm not gonna say he does haphazardly, but I think he's a bit overzealous. You know, I can say he's a bit overzealous, and then some things that he does, I think he's spot on for how slow the Democrats can move sometimes. Notice I said slow, because they have plans, but they don't really do their plans, so that's what's troubling with me with Democrats. But I just don't really bash the president. Even if the president was still Joe Biden, I wouldn't be on here having a bash fest. Do you like $2 gas? Who doesn't like $2 gas? Dude, I drive American trucks. Of course I would like $2 gas. Are you kidding me? I would beg for $2 gas. Between the Jeep and the truck, I would love $2 gas. But just because I can't have it doesn't mean I'm going to like leave the United States or something. So that doesn't matter. But yeah, I hope that I've articulated that for you. So Trip, I don't think that they should just dump them either. I'm not for just making somebody's life chaotic. Like, regardless of how conservative I live, people are human, right? I believe in humanizing people. It doesn't matter if you're a single mom or dad. I would not want to see a family out on the street, like, just haphazardly like that. Because, oh, you know, and we're cutting Section 8, so you're screwed. I don't think that I think that would be a horrible way to actually do this. And I would hope that they would ease into this. But with this administration, there's really no telling. Like, sometimes they do things that I'm like, oh, wow, that was actually pretty gracious. And other times I'm like, yeah, I was expecting them to move that haphazardly. So I just don't know how they're going to roll this out. But I'm definitely not for them just dumping, you know, a bunch of people. I thought there was a little bit more than that on Section 8 as well. But that's still a fairly large number when we're talking about making people's lives chaotic, right? All right, guys, let's jump back in.
States to design their own rental assistance programs based on their unique needs and preferences.
People better start taking Trump seriously. Like, show me, but if you could tell me who was a person, it's him.
It's him.
He's what, now talking about getting rid of housing? That is literally going to force people that have not paid that amount in whatever their rent costs, homeless. That is about to literally force people into the streets. And everybody keeps saying the same thing. Oh, he's not going to do this, or he can't get away with this, or our Constitution is so strong. Literally, he is getting away with a lot of stuff. I also said do not order from Shein, like what, a month ago? Because of what was happening with the packages. That's why you guys gave me that 1 million views, right? What's funny is people are really taking this as a joke when you cannot determine anymore what will pass or what won't pass.
People need to get their lives in order for real. They really do. We cannot continue to subsidize grown, able-bodied people. Seriously. And there shouldn't be a situation where there's generation upon generation upon generation of people on housing vouchers. That shouldn't be the case either. It should be temporary. I like the idea. 2 years, maybe we help you, get some skills so you can get out there and take care of yourself. Seriously.
Hey, what do y'all think about Trump cutting back on Section 8? Basically, from his latest press conference, he wants to distribute and allocate all those funds to the state level. That way the state can devise certain programs to allocate the funds to their citizens, because each state has different things going on. And, they want to reduce the wait time and all of the hassle that it takes for them to do it on a federal level and just put it on a state level. That way that everybody can get the services they need in a more efficient time. My thing is also, we have to figure out a way to cut back on people needing these services and reduce this homelessness epidemic that we are experiencing by making housing more affordable for everybody across the board. That way it's not a tax burden for other citizens that's having problems with their own survival. It shouldn't have to be a matter of other people having to get food taken off their plate to make sure somebody else eats. Now, I get we all have hard times. Lord knows I've had my hard times and struggles. But at the end of the day, these services shouldn't be a life sentence. It should be used as a way for people to get on their feet and be able to be self-sufficient long term. So we have to get to the root of the problem, and I think that's why he's trying to allocate those services statewide, to get a lot of our council people, Congress people to, make better laws so they're actually doing their job to help the citizens and their constituents, because essentially that's what they're supposed to be doing anyway.
She's absolutely right. We need to do something to incentivize, men and women to get together, make a deal. There's a lot of women out there that have decided that they are not going to settle because they could lean on the government, for that assistance. We also have a lot of people, men and women, that have decided that they would rather game the system than get out and get a job. Now, we're getting rid of a lot of people, that have come over in this country illegally, right? And what we do know is that when they leave, there's going to be some jobs that are going to open up. These people that are on Section 8 that ain't working, those are going to be people that need to go get out and go fill those jobs and go make a way for yourself. Go make a way for your family. That's what this is about. We got 21 million people that came over here. Some of them are on assistance. Others are working jobs and working under the table and things of that nature. And we have a plethora of people that are on the system, gaming the system. I'm not saying that we take benefits from our disabled folks, nor our senior citizens. But able-bodied individuals, y'all need to get out and get some jobs, man. And there's going to be a plethora of jobs that are going to open up as we continue to get the illegal immigrants out of our country.
Supposedly, I don't know if this is true, I don't know if this is factual, but Section 8 will be cut come 2025 or later 2025. This is what I've seen on, I think it was on Facebook. I didn't even go and fact check. But I want to address the comment that I seen, and it was like, this is good because people be on Section 8 and they abuse it. And it's like, how is this good? Whether a group of people are abusing a resource, if you take the whole resource away, for the people that's not abusing it, we don't have it. And I feel like that was always a problem with, Trump voters and people who didn't side with Kamala Harris, because they thought that they were just giving out, awards. Everybody was getting participation awards. No, they were giving out, resources to people who needed it. And it's because you fell through the roof of, freeloaders and stuff like that. That's just what happens when you have a public service or public resources. But when you take it away, now people are scrounging. And when people get in survival, when people do things that they would not normally do. So it puts you at a danger. So even if you're not a part of the Section 8 community, you get around somebody who need to feed their family and watch what they do. And watch how they act and watch how people move. And I think that's what, Trump is kind of bargaining at. He's getting at, stir crazy. People become fearful for their lives. The survival of the fittest. So certain, government assistance that's now been taken away is not an act of service. It's not, now everybody's going to get up on their own 2 feet. No. People don't have it like that. It's not like everyone is not dealt the same card, so you're not going to be like putting everybody the same starting line and then whatever. No, this is going to be crazy. I don't know if it's true that they're taking away Section 8, but that wasn't, that wasn't a...
Now look at this lady right here. I don't know if that's a wig or whatever, but she got her hair did. She got the claws, she got the tiger claws, you know what I'm saying? She got the big tattoo. She looking kind of fresh, so she done spent a little bit of bread, but yet she's complaining about the people who are on the system and people who, talk about folks that abuse the system. Think about this, man. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 9 in the New Testament, it states that a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And what that means is, the verse, it uses leaven, which is yeast, as a metaphor. And what it's saying is that, a tiny bit of yeast will spread through the whole batch of dough and changes it completely. A small amount of corruption, a small amount of sin, or bad influence can spread and ruin everything. It only takes a little wrong to mess up the whole thing. And I get it. I get it. People are frustrated. People are upset. But the reality of it is this. We have entirely too many people on the system that are able-bodied. I'm not talking about the disabled folks. I'm not talking about our senior citizens. I'm talking about young people that are disabled, like this young lady. I would assume that she's on Section 8. She's complaining, like the lady that started the clip-off, who's on Section 8 receiving cash assistance, but she driving around BMW. I don't even have a brand new car. And I'm sure many of you guys that work hard, pay their bills, take care of their children, y'all ain't driving around in new cars either, but yet this lady on the system, driving around in a better car, probably eating better than you and I. This lady was receiving $4,000 a month in food stamps, but you driving a daggone 2024 BMW of some sort. Come on, man. Come on. This is ridiculous.
So let me get this straight. The guy with gold toilets wants to end Section 8. So the Trump administration is now floating the idea of cutting Section 8.
I'm assuming that she's on Section 8. She's complaining, like the lady that started the clip-off, who's on Section 8.
Come on, y'all. I have to run that one back. I do. It was good. And he hit on some good points. A little bit of leaven. Listen, you guys know over here, I'm unapologetically a Christian. I talk about this over here all of the time. I don't push my beliefs on anybody, but I believe that Jesus is for everybody. He don't care if you're an atheist. He ain't intimidated by your little unbelieving self. He ain't worried about that. But he made some great points here, so I gotta run it back, y'all.
Survival when people do things that they would not normally do. So it puts you at a danger. So even if you're not a part of the Section 8 community, you get around somebody who need to feed their family and watch what they do and watch how they act and watch how people move. And I think that's what Trump is kind of bargaining at. He's getting at stir crazy. People become fearful for their lives. It's survival of the fittest. So certain government assistance that's now been taken away is not an act of service. It's not now everybody's going to get up on their own 2 feet. No. People don't have it like that. It's not like everyone is not dealt the same card, so you're not going to be putting everybody the same starting line and then whatever. No, this is going to be crazy. I don't know if it's true that they're taking away Section 8, but that wasn't, that wasn't.
Now look at this lady right here. I don't know if that's a wig or whatever, but she got her hair dead. She got the claws, she got the tiger claws. You know what I'm saying? She got the big tattoo. She looking kind of fresh, so she done spent a little bit of bread, but yet she's complaining about the people who are on the system and people who, talk about folks that abuse the system. Think about this, man. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 9 in the New Testament, it states that a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And what that means is, the verse, it uses leaven, which is yeast, as a metaphor. And what it's saying is that, a tiny bit of yeast will spread through the whole batch of dough and changes it completely. A small amount of corruption, a small amount of sin, or bad influence can spread and ruin everything.
Yep.
It only takes a little wrong to mess up the whole thing. And I get it. I get it. People are frustrated. People are upset. But the reality of it is this. We have entirely too many people on the system that are able-bodied. I'm not talking about the disabled folks. I'm not talking about our senior citizens. I'm talking about young people that are disabled, like this young lady. I would assume that she's on Section 8. She's complaining, like the lady that started the clip-off, who's on Section 8 receiving cash assistance, but she driving around BMW. I don't even have a brand new car. And I'm sure many of you guys that work hard, pay their bills, take care of their children, y'all ain't driving around in new cars either, but yet this lady on the system, driving around in a better car, probably eating better than you and I. This lady was receiving $4,000 a month in food stamps, but you driving a daggone 2024 BMW of some sort.
Yep.
Come on, man. Come on. This is ridiculous.
So let me get this straight. The guy with gold toilets.
That's why I said I just had questions, bro. Because like, why is it a 2024 BMW? That's what I said. Like, yo, Triple, I'm with you. Triple said, let me see what my man Triple said. Triple said, I work and have a great running 14-year-old car. I'm happy to have both. Absolutely. Me as well, sir. I'm happy to have both too. I have a very stable job that is very flexible. I have a good work-life balance. The cars that me and my wife have, they are, one's like 13 years old and one's like 9 years old. It's like you got people out here driving a 2024. And listen, I make decent money. I'm not too shabby. I mean, I don't do too bad for a chemist. I don't do too bad for someone who's trying to climb the ladder at my job. I do pretty good. So, and on top of that, I've been at my job a little more than half of a decade. So, and I'm at a place where I get annual increases. So that right there should tell you, like, I'm in a pretty decent spot. I'm not going to tell you guys exactly where I'm at, but I'm grateful for both. And even though I could drive a brand new car, I would never buy one. So I have no idea. I would never buy one at all. So at the end of the day, hey, what can we say? Oh, don't feel bad about that trip. I say that to everybody. My wife is always like, stop calling me bro. So don't, my bad about that. Don't feel bad about that. My wife checks me for that all of the time. We're like mid-conversation and like she makes a great point and I make a great point and I'm like, dude or bro, and my wife's like, don't call me dude, don't call me bro. So it's literally just a me thing. My fault. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and finish. But yeah, 2024, cars depreciate at a sickening rate. It's one of the only things that you can buy and driving it off the lot, it drops between 45 and 55%. That's disgusting. There are literally sneakers that appreciate better than cars. If you guys know what a sneaker community even is. So for someone to be driving around, and let's be clear, $4,000 worth of food stamps while you're on the 2024. Why are you able to buy a 2024 BMW? Because you're not buying the food in your house. And what do you think people are doing with $4,000 worth of food stamps? Because let me just be clear. Like some of the people I've seen that get that many food stamps, when I say that they eat good, like they eat real good. Like they don't even have a desire to go out because they're eating steaks and they're eating lobster and they're eating lamb and they're eating all of that stuff. Right? And I'm not hating on them for it, but you're probably not going to be able to buy as much as that if you're only getting $800 worth of food stamps a month, right? Now this lady is saying 88. They're probably saying 88 because of some of the money that she makes on TikTok, the lady earlier in the live, right? She probably has some funds that are unaccounted for. So they're probably going to drop her food stamps as low as they can until she does some compliance, right? Like until she probably gives in certain forms, until she said they want to see her sell her car. I've never seen someone ask someone to do that, but they might want to see her get a cheaper car. I'm not sure how that works. That's probably a state to state thing. I've never seen DHS tell somebody to sell their car, but I don't know what this state is telling this lady, but I just think that, like I said in the beginning of the live, I've had questions because why are you driving a 2024 BMW? Is it only because you were getting $4,000 a month in food stamps? Because if she were buying her own food, would she be willing to have a 2024 BMW? I don't think so, because the car note would be disgusting. But I'm sure she has a car note, because if she didn't, what would be the need for $4,000 in food stamps? Like if you can pay off a 2024 BMW, why do you need food stamps? So it's just a ridiculous situation.
Like, come on, man. Come on. This is ridiculous.
So let me get this straight. The guy with gold toilets wants to end Section 8. So the Trump administration is now floating the idea of cutting Section 8. You know, the program that keeps grandma from living in her car or a mother with children living in a shelter. But wait, billionaires get tax breaks the size of Texas, and that's all cool. But helping people afford a one-bedroom? Socialism. This ain't about budget, y'all. It's about punishment. Nothing says make America great again, like making the poor homeless and building more golf courses at Mar-a-Lago. The cherry on top is some of you are actually out here cheering this on. Like you ain't got a voucher in your cousin's name and a P.O. box in your aunt's zip code. Be serious. Should your landlord be a politician too?
See, but she's saying that stuff assuming that everybody's doing ratchet madness. You see what I mean? Like she's saying, I don't have none of that stuff. But she said, but there are some people that do. And she's saying that based off an assumption.
Or should we start actually voting like housing matters? Because rich people ain't playing. They want everything.
No, what they want is you to get up off your butt and go do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And quit waiting and depending on the government who takes money from middle class and working class people.
Like
and
myself.
let's just keep it a buck. Wealthy people.
Yep.
Those are the people that pay the most taxes. Let's keep it real. And people always get upset, with the billionaires, who have money. But the last time I checked, there are no poor people employing people.
Right.
Let me say that again. I don't know of a poor person who is employing anybody.
Preach.
I don't know of poor people who are willing to take their money and risk it to start a company or to build anything and then hire some people. I don't know. This upsets me because you got so many people out here who believe these wicked Democrats and these woke politicians out there that, it's the billionaire, the oligarchy, and all these other kind of folks. But the last time I checked, these are the people that start and own the companies. These are the people that hire the masses. Simple as that. Like I said, I don't know of a poor person that is employing anybody. And the reality of it is that poor people don't pay taxes. And I'm not saying this to denigrate, folks, that are poor.
I mean, if you are, now you guys can tell me if it's a state by state thing, but I know in the state that I'm in, if you are below a certain tax bracket, that's true. That's true. What he's saying when he said poor people don't pay taxes. And the state that I'm in, if you are below a certain tax bracket, you don't have to file for your taxes. And that's a hard thing, right? Because he's making a good point here. Rich people, working class people, any of you guys right now that has a job and you go to work and you're paying taxes, he's talking about you as well. It's not only the rich people, they just probably pay a higher tax, is what he's saying. Because they're gonna take more taxes because they have more money to take from. So that makes sense. But if you're a part of the working class, you're in that bunch too. So I'm actually not the person that, like, I actually had the luxury of not paying taxes. No, because I don't make that number. There's a number that I have to be below, and then I can fall there. But it's like I'm not below that number. But there are people who are below that number. He's absolutely right.
I'm not saying that, but stop complaining about the people who were willing to put the risk out, who were willing to put the work in.
What if, when uncertainty is high, heck, when chaos is high,
you know what I'm saying? Who are, employing the masses and paying a majority of the taxes. Stop it, man. Stop it.
The Trump administration is trying to kill Section 8. Section 8 and government subsidized housing is now in the crosshairs of the Trump administration. They are looking to cut it by at least 40% to help save money. There's about 2.3 million people that get government subsidized housing through Section 8 across the country, and the Trump administration is looking to take it from a national level to a state level. So before you freak out with all this misinformation out there, it's not going away. The goal is to take it from a national, overinflated, overbloated, overfunded program to a state level program where...
Right, so Triple, I don't know if you're still in the chat, but Triple was talking to me about this, and we were talking about how we didn't really want to see, like, he didn't think that they should just kind of like off-rail people at a fast rate with this ending Section 8 thing. And it's like, it's not like it's completely ending. So that's something I didn't say earlier in the live, but I knew it wasn't completely ending. It is going to a state level. So when people are the first gentleman who said it's going to force landlords who are receiving Section 8 from the government to evict people. That's true, but it doesn't have to be true, right? Because if it falls to a state level and the state has a plan, dear God, for the states that already are doing horrible with homelessness right now, right? Mine's is one of them. So I'm interested to see on how they do it. And that's just from my standpoint of seeing a lot of veterans being homeless, knowing that my state put a 10-year plan in place, I think 17 years ago now, 18 years ago now, to defeat homelessness, and they've made like pretty much zero progress. So me being aware of that, the states that already are not doing great with homelessness, I am worrisome there. So if you guys want to see like some part where I'm going to humanize this whole thing, which I try to do that because I believe that people are the most important thing to God, not entities and rules. People are, right? So yeah, to humanize this whole thing, I think that it really is a big deal on support their people. Is that okay? Like we don't want the government, too much big government. We can't stand big government. Okay, well let's see what happens when you give it to the states, right? It's the same thing with education, what they're trying to do with education, right? Give it to the states. Give parents a lot more rights and jurisdiction to where their children can go to school at, right? So let's just see what happens when it's given to the states. Well, the states that plan this well, I think that they will do well. They'll probably already have something in place. Maybe there'll be a new plan to where, hey, Section 8 is still available, but maybe there's a time restraint on it now, right? Like maybe now you can't just be on Section 8 for 8 to 12 years. Maybe now you have a minimum of 3 years, right? Or maybe now you have a maximum of 5. But if the states do well with this, then I feel like the people will do well with this. If the states fail to plan, then they plan to fail. That's the way we kind of say that in the Marine Corps. You fail to plan, you plan to fail. So let's see. Republican run states can't afford it, but Democrat run states can. Yeah. And that's where I think that's where some of my worry is at, because most of the states that we see that are usually pretty run down, not doing the best, political craziness, violence all over the place, illegal immigration out of control, blue states, right? Most of the time we see that. A lot of people are leaving blue states and moving to red states. Tennessee is experiencing a big boom right now. Me and my wife love Tennessee. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to see. I think that the states that plan this, they'll do well, and I think the states that are going to be haphazard with this and it falls by the wayside, I think we're going to see a lot of trouble.
Where the national government will kick in a little bit, the states will have to kick in as well, and they will actually have to have a budget. There's also discussion about a cap on able-bodied adults only getting it for so long. This is one of those things where the headlines sound scarier than the actual sublines. However, this will affect real estate. And this is why I've been telling y'all that Section 8 isn't guaranteed. Let me know what you think in the comments.
We'll stop the video there. I appreciate you guys pulling up, man. I want to hear what you guys think about this in the comment section. I really, really do. I also want you guys to pull up tomorrow morning or any morning, Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and come check out, one of the sharpest, one of the livest, one of the most truthful broadcasts in these YouTube streets. A righteous perspective in them.
Yeah, shout out to him. I like a righteous perspective. If you guys get a chance, go check his channel out. He does a great job. We react to him often over here. But yeah, I'm dying to know, what do you guys think about this? You can leave this in the comment section after we stop the live, or you can drop something there now. But I am wanting to know what you guys think, because if you know people that are dealing with Section 8, then yeah, we're going to have friends, family, loved ones that are affected. I think a lot of that are affected by this. I think a lot of the times people hear me jump on here and they just kind of jump to a conclusion that I'm siding one way, so I can't humanize the other side, when absolutely I can. Like I love to look at the broad spectrum of things, the whole entire picture. And I'm good at that. And I can understand why there are both sides and why each person believes their side. That's what I think a balanced person is able to do. I'm fine with people who are okay with agreeing to disagree with me, right? But what you're not gonna do is really just jump on my live and think that you're gonna dominate it and say like, oh, how can a black person with black ancestors who white people brought over here side with legal immigration? Okay, well that's dumb. That's dumb to ask, because that already shows me that you don't know much about the law anyway. And then you're not gonna do this whole pandering thing to race, right? Because I don't fall for that. Because as someone who fought for the country and believes in what Martin Luther King said, which was a colorblind nation, right? We all see it, but you're not judging people by that. At least you shouldn't be. Content of their character, right? Not the color of their skin. If people really understood what was going on right now, this is something that this administration is trying to do. But when you try to explain that to a group of emotionally, racially charged African American people who have been lied to for 60 years by Democrats, and you have them brainwashed, it is hard to get your point through. Like, it's hard to get your point across. So a lot of the times I can come off pretty overzealous to people who look like me. People who don't look like me usually say, "Oh, you know, you come off pretty balanced." Well, some of that is my time in the Marine Corps. Some of that is time in government, time at the jobs I've worked at, the government jobs, the time I've spent overseas. I've been in different places, so I've had to assimilate myself to different cultures and different types of people, right? When we don't do these things, we ask ignorant questions, right? Like, why am I okay with Trump deporting black and brown people and importing white people? Well, they weren't even white. They were South African. They just had very little melanin, my friend. But it's okay. All right, guys. So moving along here, we're going to go to Bill O'Reilly. Trump's foreign policy reviewed. Newsom gets tough, and Pentagon experiencing some cuts. So we're going to go a little bit more into the news here now, where we're reacting to some more political stuff. So those of you guys that are into it, I know you'll hang around. Those of you guys that politics scare the heck out of you, I know you'll probably dip out. But Bill O'Reilly, in his older years, he's very advanced. For those of you who are not familiar with him, it's crazy. He actually used to do lots of interviews with rappers back in the days, like Cameron. I think the other one was Dame Dash was somebody who mentioned Bill O'Reilly. So he's out there. He's not out there just amongst white people. I think as he's gotten older, he's more balanced. He was super overzealous as a young guy. And I mean, man, he was a cannon. Like, he would just come at you. But he's very balanced. You know, he tells the truth even when he doesn't want to. And he's honest about it. You know, he gives both sides. So I can appreciate that. And it's wisdom. You know, Bill's an older guy. I like to hang out with... I've always had a love for older people. What is his channel again, please? That was... his channel's called A Righteous Perspective. So if you just put it in YouTube, A Righteous Perspective, he'll come up and you can, not this guy. I know this is Bill O'Reilly. You're talking about the other guy, Triple. His channel's called A Righteous Perspective. All right, guys. So, yeah, Bill's a lot more balanced in his older years. So he's going to talk to us. He does a great job covering what President Trump is doing. What does he think he's up to? Newsom getting tough. You know, Gavin Newsom, for those of you guys who are aware of who Gavin Newsom is, the governor of California. He has a new podcast, which I think is kind of cringy, but I've listened to it from time to time. One of his first guests on it was Charlie Kirk, which I was like, okay, so he's really trying to be different now, right? Because we got Gavin Newsom, super liberal, super Democrat, and he has Charlie Kirk on there, right? Charlie Kirk, who we saw his face plastered all over like President Trump's campaign, right? First and second. So it's just interesting to see those two sit down and have a talk. But hey, I think that the Democratic Party is desperate. They're trying to put someone out there as the face for 2028. They need somebody, right? Why not Gavin Newsom? I could think about plenty of reasons. But nonetheless, he's going to talk about Gavin Newsom, and then the Pentagon experiences some cuts. So let's jump right in.
Then yesterday, in the news cycle, President Trump is over in Saudi Arabia trying to get deals with the Arabs. He'll get them, primarily because we are providing the Arab nations in the Gulf with security against Iran. That's what this is really all about. And there's business opportunities in the USA for a lot of the nations in the Gulf, and Trump knows that. Also, the Trump organization, run by his two sons, Eric and Don Jr., are doing a lot of business privately with the Gulf nations. Now, that's legal, all right? It's not a Hunter Biden situation because it's all up top. Everybody knows what's happening. But I think President Trump has to be careful, all right, in how he presents his negotiations over there. And that is the subject of this evening's talking points memo. So the tariff thing yesterday worked out well. Best day for the Trump administration in both first and second terms. Dow is up 1,149 points. NASDAQ 759 points, rocket rises. And that brings us pretty much to parity for the stock market since Liberation Day on April 2nd. So remember all the panic, and we went over this yesterday. I told you to just stay tough. Don't do anything, because that's what I did. And now we're back to where we were on April 2nd. There's no guarantee for the future of anything. And I'm going to reiterate this advice to you. If you do not have the stomach, all right, to confront your investment portfolio when it goes down, get out now. Because Donald Trump is unpredictable, okay? We're not talking about an ordinary president here.
Yeah, he was
So
trouble.
this thing is volatile.
He was crazy.
I only
when he was
have
younger.
myself about 23% of my assets in the stock market. Now, I'm an old guy, so I don't need any more than that, but I'm really a conservative, cautious investor. I work hard for my money. I don't want to lose it. Okay. So yesterday is a good day for the markets, a good day for Trump. But then the media, which generally despises the president, kicks in with their take on it.
That's still a lot of assets to have in the stock market. Bill said he's at 23% of his assets in the stock market. I'm at like 14. He's at 23 and he's an older guy. Like he's still pretty, okay. So he's still pretty high risk.
So,
look, I think Wall Street loves what they're hearing, in part because the expectation of these massive tariffs seem to be coming down, and it seems to be ultimately not going to be the strategy of the United States to pursue them. We will see ultimately what that looks like.
No offense, but if you're paying more than $30 a month on car insurance, you're getting ripped off. Everybody knows you can buy a car insurance.
We're all getting
That's
ripped
just
off.
gibberish. I'm surprised a guy like Sorkin's been around for a while just spouting that nonsense. Trump is going to hold the tariffs, particularly the 10% admittance fee to get in here. Okay, so I don't even know why these guys say this stuff. They get away with it because their anchors are going, they don't know anything. Okay, so the media knew or knows that Trump is riding a winning streak here, so they divert into the Qatar plane thing. Now you can pronounce that country Qatar or Qatar. Both are used. Anyway, the royal family, and remember, these are not democracies in the Gulf. All right, it's not like the people don't have any say about what happens. It's just the princes and the sultans, they make all the decisions. So anyway, Qatar wants a big positive relationship with the United States. Now, this is a fascinating story. So in 2018, Trump was president first term, okay? The Trump administration awarded Boeing $4 billion to build 2 jets for the federal government. That was 7 years ago, $4 billion, okay? The planes are supposed to be delivered last year in 2024. Now, Boeing says they won't deliver them until maybe 2029.
Oh my God.
A monumental screw up. And Boeing should be fined. Okay, they violated a contract all day long.
Give us that $4 billion
So
back.
the plane, Air Force One, is 30 years old. Do you really want the government of the United States flying around a 30-year-old plane? I don't care who's president.
Yeah, I don't either.
So Qatar knows all this and says, hey, we got one, we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you. And it's worth $400 million, all right? So Trump goes, okay. And here's what followed. Go.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it
You're
behind?
ABC fake news, right?
Why
It's
not?
only ABC, well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or $400 million or whatever it is.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman, somebody can look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth millions of dollars and then not receive
It's not a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better, because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster.
All right, so this is more of the same. A couple of things.
I'm sorry, guys. I can't help it. Like, this was something that I laughed at during his first term, too. Like, President Trump goes off on the media all of the time, and I can't help. I can't help but laugh. Like, it cracks me up because he's just so straightforward with them. Why didn't they worry about it when they were sending $150 billion to Ukraine? They pick and choose this stuff, David. We know that. They pick and choose this stuff. But see, this is the thing. Bill O'Reilly goes into detail about this is a $4 billion deal that Boeing screwed up on. 7 years ago. We should have already had a plan. So they tell President Trump, okay, hey, we have one, and we'll just give it to you, for free. And then the news anchor asked this question, like, President Trump, how do you feel that people are going to view this jet as a personal gift to you? That's why he went off on her. He's like, you should be ashamed of yourself asking that question. It's a gift to the Department of Defense. It's like, oh man.
The correspondent Rachel Scott, those questions were legitimate. I would ask them, but I wouldn't have asked them the same way. That's always the deal.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So Ms. Scott asked the question as a prosecutor.
Yeah.
It's not what you do with President Trump. Because then you give him an opening to attack you personally. It's not what you do. And an experienced journalist should know that, and Ms. Scott apparently does not. I'm not criticizing her for asking a question. The question was legit, okay? But then she says in her questioning, as a gift to you, that's not what this is. Trump jumped on it immediately. Oh, it's a gift to the government, okay? And then Gadara let me keep it for my library or whatever. Okay. So here's how you ask that question. If I'm interviewing Donald Trump, which I have many times, Mr. President, do you foresee any legal problems with accepting that jet from Qatar?
That's a good way to put it.
That's it. That's the question.
That lands beautifully.
Do you foresee legal problems? Right? You get it right down, and then he may attack you, but then you just go, look, anybody would ask that question.
Right.
All right, now I had to deal with this on News Nation last night with Leland Vitter, which was very interesting. Go.
I'm guessing, Bill, you're going to tell me that the plane just doesn't matter.
I got to find out what the deal is. I'm very curious to know what the conservatives are talking about when they say that the government of Qatar is funding the jihadists in the present tense. I'd like to see the data behind that. Do you know what the data is there, Leland?
Yes. They still harbor Hamas.
Go.
They still harbor Hamas. They're protectors of the Muslim Brotherhood because Hamas guys are living there.
They're living there?
Yes.
Hamas guys?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Where are they living? Do you know?
Well, you want their address, Bill? Come on.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that. Look, we have a huge CIA station in Qatar. We have troops on the ground in Qatar, and you're telling me Hamas big shots live next door? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So they don't. I checked today with my intel sources. There's no Hamas.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Big shots living in Qatar that anybody knows about. And it wouldn't make any sense. Because if you look at the amount of money the government of Qatar has invested in so-called anti-terrorism programs, it's astronomical. Now, in the past, yeah, but not now.
Why is Amazon paying me $63,000?
No one cares.
Pick on Leland. I like Leland, but there's no evidence that there's any Hamas big shot living in that country. So the argument that, oh, you're taking a jet from a country that enables terrorism, what are you talking about? You gonna back it up? Nobody can back it up. Because I don't think it's happening right now. I mean, just step back. Right? What advantage is there?
Also, this is why this is such a big deal to people, because they feel like President Trump is taking a jet from the same people that
what
deal with the
advantage is there to that government and God? So the argument that, oh, you're taking a jet from a country that enables terrorism, what are you talking about? You're going to back it up? Nobody can back it up. Because I don't think it's happening right now. I mean, just step back. Right? What advantage is there to that government and got her to back terrorists? None. So, all right. Now, if I were me, I would, and I were President of the United States, I would have anticipated you're going to get a lot of flack, not only from the resistance on the left, but on your own side, too. Here's Rand Paul. Go.
The Constitution in Article 2 talks about the president can't take emoluments or gifts from foreign leaders. And so there is a provision in the Constitution that says you can't do this. And so the question is, can you do it if it's only for official purposes?
Okay, that's the question.
Yeah.
Now, the solution to this whole problem is so simple, it's painful. All Mr. Trump has to do is say, they're going to loan us the jet. Because our people, Boeing, couldn't do it. And we need a new jet, and that's the best one, so they're going to loan it to us, and then we'll give it back after my term is over, or after the new plane is delivered finally by Boeing. Takes it a little while. Trump doesn't need the jet for his library, even though Ronald Reagan has one out in Simi Valley, but it didn't hit. So they loan it to us. We loan countries all kinds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
That's the solution. And that's a memo. And this story won't go away. Democrats will try to get it to Congress, you know. We just change it to, all right, we're going to loan it to us. In today's economy, it feels like we're all walking on very, no spin news is the no spin news. YouTube is a separate entity. Let's go to the middle. We got Todd Marble. It's Schenectady, New York. I'm guessing you'll be discussing the plane situation. Everyone seems to be losing their minds.
Yeah.
What is the difference between this and France gifting the USA the Statue of Liberty? Come on, Todd, there's a big difference. So the plane benefits the President of the United States and his administration. Statue of Liberty was just a symbolic, very nice gesture by France, but it's not in the same category. Patrick got a...
Yeah, because the Statue of Liberty, it doesn't offer any benefit. Like, it's a nice symbol, and it's definitely become something that is symbolic, not just in New York, but for America in general, even though the Statue of Liberty is in New York. But it doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't have the same benefit. This would be for the president to be able to get around, or people in the Department of Defense, as you said. So, totally different scenario.
Message boards. Bill, you're going to continue to be spot on with regards to what's unfolding in the Trump presidency. Many who do not support him still don't understand him. Ones who hate him don't care to understand. That is absolutely true. If he pulls this economic thing off, he'll go down as one of the most successful presidents in history. I agree. So Donald Trump, if he gets what he wants for prosperous America, he'll be right in the Reagan category, despite all the other stuff. Jacqueline, message board, I'm confused regarding U.S. drug prices being higher than Europe. You said this is because of tariffs. But if these drugs are manufactured in the USA, they should be cheaper here. No, because the drug companies can't get into Germany or Italy or any of the EU countries or other countries around the world unless they agree to a certain price for a certain drug. So Germany says, we're not going to take it. We're not going to be able to sell your drug here. So the U.S. drug companies go, all right, we'll charge this, which is much lower than here, because here they make up the money because they can charge whatever they want.
Yep.
Here, see, that's why we pay the higher drug prices. Mike on the message board, I don't believe President Trump is punishing those who corrupted the justice system. I think he has told his DOJ to hunt down lawbreakers and bring them to justice. No. It's all personal with Donald Trump. Believe me. He's not telling anybody. He's saying, this one, and this one. Jillian, concierge member. Way to go, Jillian, you're ahead of the curve. Good advice about stocks. Our investments are mostly back. We did nothing and just waited. But boy, when you're retired and your portfolio is part of your income, it can be scary. That's why, Jillian, you got to rethink it now.
Oh, yeah, it is.
You got risky stocks in there. I'm cutting my wrist like crazy. Blake Chazarian, Thailand. Hey, Bill, I'm an avid YouTube listener. Learning a lot from your commentary on YouTube. I've read all the killing books. I consider you my authority for current events. Nothing is real unless it is acknowledged by you. Well, I appreciate that. You know, Thailand, I've been there. I'd like to go back. The Adamant Sea, I'd like to check that out. It's hot. I know that. I don't think I can take the climate, but it's a very interesting country. Good food, too. Okay. We have Mark Brown, Garland, Utah. Sure, just a note, I re-upped my concierge membership, and Then I bought another one, gave it to my mother-in-law for Mother's Day.
All right, that's Bill going through his mail. Let me see if he stops anywhere.
Tired of typing tons of notes during class? There's finally a better way. It's called Otter. Let's set
People who had power over me.
Otter works good, guys.
I don't do this much.
I actually used it before.
But I made an appointment, I brought in the facts, had them all. Right down the line. I said, you gotta get rid of this guy, he's hurting the kids. But don't believe me. Check it out. But I made it very easy for them to check it out. Guy's gone. Okay? Now, again, I don't do that a lot because I gotta know for sure 100% that you're able before I take that kind of action. But my point is this. Every one of us knows bad people. And if you know somebody who's actively hurting another person and you can prove it, then you gotta move on it. You got it. Now, I don't expect you to put yourself at risk, a lawsuit. You know how it is. It's crazy. I expected. Protect yourself. I did. I said, look, I don't want any publicity. I don't want to be involved with this. I'm telling you, this guy's evil, hurting children, up to you. And they got it. But if you know somebody's actively hurting another person, you got a responsibility. You do.
Yep.
Final thought of the day. Thank you for watching and listening to the No Spin News.
Shout out to Bill O'Reilly. So I had Otto in the question in the chat asked me at 12:45 a.m. Otto in said, "What do you have to say about Trump accepting a jet like the ones in 9/11 from the same people?" What do I have to say about that? I don't have nothing to say about it because if you know you're president, then you know that that's just like President Trump would do something like that because he's a deal maker. Like that's just, he's been like this since his first administration. So I know for those people who didn't pay much attention to him the first time and thought it was going to be impossible for him to win the second time, I know he's like, he's mind boggling to you because you just haven't paid much attention to him. But he does things like this. Like he's a deal maker. It's just the reason why I wasn't super like shocked when he paused tariffs. Like everybody's like, oh my God, like President Trump paused tariffs, and I'm just like, yeah, that's Trump. Like that, it makes sense that he would do that, right? Because why not? Like we see him the day prior come out, like the day of with his little April 2nd Liberation Day, right? He has his chart. He says like, I watched it live, I streamed it here. He says that he has a smaller chart because the big one he wanted to bring out, they said it was too much wind and it probably would have blown it away. So he has like the tariffs that other countries are charging us. And then the new United States, oh, by the way, discounted tariffs. Like he literally had the word discounted in there. And I'm just like, I have no idea how people can literally rightfully lose their mind about these tariffs unless they just simply do not understand what they are and what they do, right? Because President Trump didn't even go full force. He went in 50%, right? Okay, so if you're charging us 120% in tariffs, we're going to come in at 60 or 59%. If you're charging us 100%, we're going to come in at 49. I thought he was pretty gracious, right? And he left it like that, right? On top of the 10% that was across the board. And then China was at, I believe, 125% at this time. They hadn't gone up to 145, right? And he just, boom, plants his feet, stays there, concrete, not moving, don't care. You start seeing countries want to negotiate, stock market takes a dip, everything's going chaotic. All of a sudden, he's like, okay, now I'll pause them. Why would he do that? Why would he do that unless in the first place he got what he was going to do? He got what he came for, right? He put the tariffs out. He had everybody scramble. He had a lot of countries come to the table. Some knowingly said, yeah, we've known for years that the tariffs haven't been fair with you guys. Like, yeah, we can sit down and talk about this. He said this stuff himself. And literally, when he got what he came for, he's like, okay, I'll pause it, with the exception of the 10%. He's not going to move the 10%, which rightfully so, because there's some countries who we didn't have any tariffs on them, and they had at least 5, 10, or 20% on us, right? So rightfully so, the 10% stays, and with the 10% across the board staying, that in itself is going to make money pour into the United States. And this doesn't even include what he works out individually with each country. So if you know your president, and like this is just how Donald Trump moves, he's a deal maker. He moves this way in the business world. So I feel nothing about him taking it, because right now, like Bill O'Reilly said, he was the president and some people in the Department of Defense are flying around in a 30-year-old plane, right? Do we want that? Is Putin flying around in a 30-year-old plane? I highly doubt it, right? So we don't want that, right? So President Trump's like, hey, you got it? You're going to give it to us? You're going to loan it to us? It's brand new or it's way newer than what we got? Sure, whatever, I'll take it. That I don't feel anything about it because if you understand President Trump, you know that he's about making a deal, and that's what he's going to do. All right, guys, so here we are. We're on the final clip of the live stream. I'm usually on long with you guys on Monday, but because Monday and Tuesday I did more like a news-a-thon, I knew I was going to stay on a little bit later tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the live stream with a Christian clip because Byron Donalds is going to end up talking about his faith at some point. Normally I end my live streams with a clip from Cliff Buell. Shout out to Cliff Buell. If you guys get a chance, go to Cliff Buell's channel, CLIFF, last name BUELL. Cliff's dope. He is a YouTube content creator that focuses on Christian content. He does podcasts. He does short videos, but his YouTube shorts are just where it's at. And every night we usually end here with a YouTube short from Cliff. And I could still do that, but Byron Donalds is going to talk about his faith, and I knew because we were going to be in like some court cases and politics that I wanted to kind of end with him giving his story about who he is and his backstory about his faith and how he actually came to faith, like the way he actually gave his life to Jesus. Byron Donalds is running for governor, I believe, of Florida right now. So best of wishes to him. I know Governor DeSantis' wife is running. I don't have nothing against her, but I'm just saying, if you guys know what you know, vote for Byron Donalds. Don't be like Canada and vote for Mark Carney. I'm just saying, just vote the right way. All right, guys, so let's jump right in. Let's see what Byron Donalds is talking about. And shout out to the 700 Club. I watch the 700 Club often. Go watch that channel if you guys get a chance. They always have great Christian content on there.
Most influential black Republican in the MAGA movement. Yet Florida Congressman Byron Donalds' conservative credentials began long before Donald Trump. His most life-changing moment came before he entered politics at a Cracker Barrel restaurant. CBN's David Brody has the story.
We will make America great again. Donald Trump's rise has paved the way for plenty of MAGA influencers, but some have stood out.
Some call him the most influential black Republican in MAGA.
He's talking about Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, although to label him misses the larger point. Byron Donalds, a Tea Party originalist, constitutional conservative, and one of the best MAGA messengers out there. Doing well? Well, that's good to see. Our near 1 hour interview hit on a number of topics, and with a finance guy like Donalds, cutting spending is key to America's future.
This town has never cut spending.
Thanks for stopping by.
With one talk like that, he's one of the few Republican congressmen holding town halls in this day and age of Doge cuts. The critics come out, and he doesn't back down. Give me a reaction about not just that event, but more about going into the Lion's Den. I say Lion's Den, I mean it's a district, right?
I'm not going to be intimidated by your yelling. If you want to have a constructive conversation, let's do that. I'm all for that. But if you want to yell, there's the door. You can get out, and then we'll continue. And I could be political and just tell everybody what they want to hear, but I'm not in this for politics. I'm in this to put the country in the right spot.
How he even got to his spot in life is compelling. Talk about a life story. You got a life story.
I do.
Raised by a single mom on the mean streets of Brooklyn, life wasn't easy.
Well, Mom just did everything that she could. She really believed in me, believed in really my abilities. She laid a great foundation, a no excuses foundation. Like that's her. She's no excuses. Dot your I's, cross your T's. Nothing's gonna be easy.
And it wasn't. When his mom lost her job, his grandma had to step in to help pay for private schools because they saw potential. Still, trouble came when Donalds went off to college in Florida. First came a charge for marijuana possession. Those charges were dropped. Then a couple of years later, he pled no contest to felony theft for depositing a bad check. Those charges were eventually expunged from his record.
I'm not proud of it. Never have been proud of those mistakes, but in life, it's not really how you fall down, it's how you get up.
And his resurrection story begins with his girlfriend at the time, now wife, persuading Donalds to attend church.
It's crazy, especially the first time you start going into church. You feel like the pastor knows your story. Like he's talking directly to you.
Yes,
I'm thinking like, who called the pastor? Who called my mom? You know, like who called my mom? Who called my friends? And started relaying the story. And I think that's really where I started meeting the Holy Spirit.
It all came together in the most unique of circumstances. Working at a Florida Cracker Barrel at age 21, Donalds was serving a large table made up of a church group. Leaving the table, he went back to roll silverware, and then it happened.
The Lord spoke to me. It was like, stop running from me. And so, like, it knocked me back. So I went out to find the table, and they were all gone. And I could see through the windows that they were getting on their bus. So I walked out. My manager's like, where are you going? I said, I need a second. I walk out there. The last lady's getting on the bus, and she goes, yo, man, you okay? And I go, no, ma'am, I'm not okay. And she goes, what? And I go, Lord's telling me to stop running. Yeah. I still get emotional about it. And so there was a little tree that was right there next to where their van was pulled up. And they all came pouring out the bus. I mean, they just came from a revival. So they're like, oh, praise the Lord. You know, we got another one. And so they pour out the bus and they all pray over me. And I gave my life to Christ in the parking lot of Cracker Barrel.
You got saved at Cracker Barrel?
Sure did.
And his life began to take off. As a financial executive, Donalds began noticing flaws in how the federal government operated. He read the 1850 book, The Law, preaching the undergirdings of morality and a free society. That gave birth to a passion, eventually playing out during the Tea Party movement.
The first battle for our future comes in 1 month, when we take the first step to restoring America to its founding principles.
Today, as an outspoken congressman, he doesn't mind mixing it up with the left.
Do you know that Social Security is going to be insolvent in 2025?
That's actually not true. Being a conservative who happens to be black can make it even more challenging. What's the pushback that you've had for being the air quote black conservative? Like what has that journey been like for you?
Urge your convictions. You better know what you're talking about.
He questions the Democrat Party's direction because he believes they're leaving God out of the equation.
I think the issue for Democrats is their political views just differ, in my view, very greatly from what the Bible says.
The courage of his convictions has made him popular enough among Capitol Hill colleagues to garner a couple votes for House Speaker at one point. Now, Donalds is moving on to greener pastures by running to be the next governor of Florida. And his prayer goes as follows.
God, if this is not for me, close that door. And if it's something that we should pursue, then leave the door open.
That's a great
And
prayer.
so in the steps towards, running for governor, the doors just kept staying open and other doors were closing.
Floridians will see a candidate who has raised a family in the Sunshine State the last 20 plus years, but will also bring a taste of the Big Apple with him. You can take the guy to New York, but you can't really take New York out of the guy.
No.
What is that New York, Brooklyn DNA?
I joked with some old friends. They asked me what prepared me for politics. I said, growing up in New York.
How so?
You gotta be street smart.
Just part of an overall package that has Byron Donalds moving upward. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Well, there's a story you're not going to see anywhere else. The conversion in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel. God speaking to him at age 21. When are you going to stop running away? What a wonderful testimony. What a wonderful life lived. And all our best wishes for you, Brad. And may you have every success.
Yeah, I'm wishing Byron Donalds the best wishes as well. A conversion story about being saved in a parking lot of a Cracker Barrel. I love stories like that because God will meet you wherever you're at. Like, you guys might hear like little lines like that and say, oh, cute, like that sounds so cliche, but it's so true. It's true. Like, God will meet you wherever you're at. I mean, Cracker Barrels, right before you take a fatal hit of cocaine, right before you overdose, right before you commit suicide, right before you have sex with someone's wife or someone's husband. Like God will meet you wherever you're at. And I think sometimes when I sit in these circles or these groups of people, they kind of hear the way I talk about God, and sometimes like people are like they're taken back by it because they think almost like the way I'm expressing how I understand and I relate to God is like disrespectful, but it's not. It's based on intimacy. I have a pretty intimate relationship with God because I commune with Him daily, all of the time, right? I don't just come to Him when I have a problem or when I'm happy. I want to talk to Him all the time. I want to know what's on His mind all the time. I want to know if I'm pleasing Him and what He wants me to do all the time. So there's a level of intimacy that comes with that, and you start to understand what a good father looks like. God being a heavenly father, He's good. Some of us struggle with that because our earthly fathers just suck, if I'm transparent. So it's almost hard to envision what a good father looks like. What a good father looks like who has a large capacity for grace and a large capacity for mercy, and you're not being judged all of the time, and like you really can do no wrong that can make this person not love you. Like when I learned that God was like that, I was excited to commune with Him all the time. This is why I know that He'll meet somebody where they are at, because where I was at when I first started to encounter the Lord, at least walk with Him, right? Because I grew up in a Christian home, but I wasn't always walking with Jesus. Was really just the grace and mercy, like His loving kindness. Scripture talks about how this is what leads people to repent. And just the more that I got to know this about God, and then not growing up with my father being a constant presence in my life, it was a hard adjustment. But I remember the Lord just being faithful and saying that I'll teach you, I'll teach you what it's like to have this type of relationship. And that's what I formed with God. I've seen God meet people in some of the most random, craziest, raunchiest spaces. And like, people can't believe it. They're like, I can't even believe Jesus would show up at a place like that. But this is where I learned from communing with God that like we say things that are like real cute and they sound biblical, but they're just not of God, right? I remember people being able to trip me up just by asking me a question like, well, you think if Jesus was here today, he'd go to a gay parade? And at one point, like that would like literally trip me up. Now it's like when people ask me questions like that, I kind of just laugh and I'm like, of course he'd probably show up, because in the Bible, Jesus always showed up in places where he shouldn't be at, or places where people are like, why are you here? Or like, why are you amongst these type of people? All the time. And this is why I love Jesus, and my life will always be dedicated to Him. Yes, I get frustrated. Yes, I get mad. Yes, sometimes I'm like, Lord, what in the heck is going on right now? But very much like Peter, where else can I go? Like, there's nowhere else I can go. Like, Jesus has everything. All right, guys. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this live stream. Growing up on the south side of Chicago, there's been over 2,000 getting shot. Hold on, guys. I'm going to read this real quick. Denzel, 2,000 getting shot, and I'm still alive. I get a lot of praying, not just for myself, but for my family. God bless you. Yeah, God bless you too, man. Like, when you're in a area like that, I grew up in a very violent area in New York City, in the Bronx, where in that time, like, kids weren't only just getting killed for like Jordans and like video games. I mean sneakers. Like, we had 12, 9, 10, 12-year-olds getting killed for a pair of shoes. Like, my mom was so fearful of these shoes that literally there was a season in my life where she made sure I didn't wear name brand sneakers, because the thought of her child going to school and coming back, and now they're not coming back because someone wanted a pair of sneakers. I mean, when high gun violence, like, let's just say where I grew up at, a gunshot was like a doorbell, right? Like, never flinched, like, never heard one that got scared, right? Never heard gunshots in the middle of the night while I was sleeping and like jumped out of the bed, because it was literally like a normal sound for me. It was like the ambulance going by or something like that, right? Sirens and things like that didn't bother me. So it's just interesting to see how different, like, me and my wife grew up. We had a short time where we relocated from where we were at, and we lived in Philadelphia for a little while, in like the city part of Philly. So if you guys are familiar with Philly, we actually weren't too far from Kensington, right? So we were like in it. And like, I'm just like chilling, like, and we're in the backyard some days, you know what I mean? Like, maybe grilling and like shots popping off, you know what I mean? Like, and it's nowhere near like 4th of July, you know, so my wife might be like, are those fireworks? And I'm like, nah, babe, those ain't fireworks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just let her know what it was, but just a super culture shock for her, and just me really like being a more of a grown adult, like, and having years of therapy and being regulated, right? Operating out of healthy brain is what me and my therapist call it, and just looking back on my life and realizing like, man, I was like super like used to this. Like this was like just a thing that was innate in me. Like gunshots, no flinching. You know what I mean? Sirens, people fighting, like all of this stuff was just like just a normal day for me, you know? So it really was a reality check for me, and I was like, yeah, like we can't like be here with the kids. Like we can't do this, you know? So I feel for you. I'll be praying for you, Denzel. I'll be praying for you and your family, and thank you for being transparent and saying what was going on in the live chat, because I know that that's hard for some people to do. My friend Ralph was only 15 years old and he got shot, and I was standing right next to him. If we can get all the gangs to be considered terrorists, I think things will change. Oh, you're not lying about that. You're not lying about that, and that's part of the reason why a lot of the MS-13 gang members and the Tren de Aragua gangs, that's the reason why a lot of them were just straight deported. Straight El Salvador, straight out of the country. A lot of people think President Trump, he's breaking all of these rules and he's deporting people illegally. It's like, no, like once the president deems a group a terrorist group, it's OVA. What due process are we talking about, my guy? Like the United States doesn't aid and abet terrorists. Like once President Trump turned those two gangs into terrorist groups, it was over for them. I knew that. Like, so when I saw all of them getting deported and people are jumping in and out of my life, like, Q, what do you think? What do you think? I'm like, bro, I don't think nothing. Like President Trump turned them into terrorist groups. They're gonna get deported. They're not gonna get no due process. The United States does not aid and abet terrorists. You're out of here. Like I knew it was gonna end like that. But Denzel, thanks for telling me that. I'll make sure that I will say a prayer for you and your family. As for the rest of you guys, I will be back on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, so tomorrow's also another later day for me. I'm probably gonna jump on here around like 7 tomorrow. So not sure how long I'm gonna be on. I could be on later than 7 o'clock, somewhere between 7 and 8, because Wednesdays and Thursdays are my later days. But with that being said, guys, go to sleep, because I know I'm gonna go to sleep eventually. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of one another, love yourselves and love one another, and be peaceful, guys. Till next time, peace.